Hello friends. Welcome to the DxD Tales. How are you all? So we are back with an interesting movie on what if Issei was the reincarnation of Gojo Satoru with Limitless and Six Eyes JJK x DxD. Also be sure to subscribe and like this video. Now let's begin. Chapter 1. Blue Awakening. Infinity stretched before him, endless, boundless, absolute. Issei Hyodo floated within this impossible space, where concepts of distance held no meaning. Blue light pulsed around him, through him, as if his very existence radiated this strange luminescence. He lifted his hand, watching fascination as reality rippled between his fingers like water. Such a shame, a voice echoed from everywhere and nowhere. With those eyes of yours and all that potential. The scene shifted violently. Blood-soaked gymnasium floors. A teenager with hollow eyes holding something horrifically familiar. Screams. A sensation of overwhelming power yet profound failure. I'll show you. Gojo Satoru. The name struck Issei like physical blow. Who was? He jolted awake, sheets tangled around his legs, sweat beading across his forehead despite the cool April morning. The digital clock read 5:47 a.m., 13 minutes before his alarm. Issei pressed his palms against his eyes, but the afterimage of blue light remained, imprinted on his consciousness like a brand. These dreams had started 3 months ago, growing more vivid with each passing night. Sometimes he was fighting impossible creatures with casual arrogance. Sometimes teaching students with harsh but effective methods. Sometimes simply existing in a world that seemed to bend around him rather than him conforming to it. Always with those eyes that saw everything. Gojo Satoru, he whispered to his empty bedroom, testing how the name felt on his tongue. Strangely familiar, like a favorite childhood song half remembered. Issei swung his legs over the bed's edge, knowing further sleep was impossible. His second year at Kuo Academy started today, and something in his chest, intuition or premonition, told him this wouldn't be just another school year. The mirror revealed nothing unusual. Average height, brown hair. Ordinary Japanese teenager. Only his eyes sometimes caught him off guard, moments when they seemed to reflect a blue light that had no source. Issei's morning routine proceeded mechanically. Shower, uniform, breakfast. His parents chatted about mundane things while he nodded absently, mind elsewhere. Lately, the world felt thin, as if reality were merely a projection he could reach through if he just found the right angle. You seem distracted, his mother noted, brow furrowed with concern. Nervous about the new school year. Issei smiled reassuringly. Just didn't sleep well. Those dreams again. His father looked up from his newspaper. Maybe we should see a doctor. Sleep disorders can become serious. They're just dreams, Issei replied, though they both knew this wasn't entirely true. The sleepwalking incident last month, when his parents found him standing in the garden at 3 a.m., hands outstretched as if measuring invisible dimensions, suggested otherwise. Besides, he added with uncharacteristic confidence, I feel stronger after them, somehow. Like I'm remembering something important rather than dreaming something new. His parents exchanged concerned glances but didn't press further. The walk to school took him past the old Buddhist temple that had stood for centuries at the edge of Kuo town. Usually, Issei barely noticed it, but today he stopped abruptly. Attention captured by the stone guardian statues flanking the entrance steps. Something about their weathered faces and protective posture triggered a cascade of fragmented images, barrier techniques. Consecrated grounds, warding against curses. Protection from what? He murmured, approaching one statue. His fingers hovered inches from the stone when a strange sensation rippled through his consciousness, like touching water without breaking the surface tension. You feel it too, huh? Issei spun around, startled by the unfamiliar voice. An elderly groundskeeper stood watching him, leaning on a bamboo rake. Something about the old man's penetrating gaze made Issei uncomfortable, as if those roomy eyes perceived something beyond ordinary sight. Feel what? Issei asked cautiously. The groundskeeper smiled enigmatically. The boundary. Most people walk past without noticing. Special eyes, you have. Before Issei could respond, the old man turned and shuffled away, disappearing behind the main temple building. Issei checked his watch and cursed. He'd be late if he lingered any longer. As he hurried toward Kuo Academy, the encounter left him unsettled. Not just the groundskeeper's words, but how natural it had felt to sense whatever invisible boundaries surrounded the temple grounds. The academy loomed ahead, its European-style architecture incongruous against the modern Japanese cityscape. Until 2 years ago, it had been an all-girls private school, but recent policy changes had admitted male students. The gender ratio remained skewed, with boys comprising barely 20% of the student population. Normally, this statistical advantage delighted Issei. Today, however, as he passed through the main gates, an overwhelming sensatio of being watched prickled across his skin. Not the usual appreciative or dismissive glances from classmates, but something more focused, more intentional. His eyes swept the courtyard instinctively, cataloging details with unusual precision. 2 third-year girls near the fountain watching him with more than casual interest, a blond boy leaning against a tree, posture too deliberately casual, a flicker of movement from the old school building that housed the notorious occult research club. "Yo, Issei." The voice broke his concentration. Matsuda and Motohama, his friends since middle school, approached with identical grins that promised mischief. "Ready for sophomore year?" Matsuda asked, slinging an arm around Issei's shoulders. "I heard the new freshman class is 80% female. And I've already calculated their 3 sizes distribution based on entrance ceremony photos," Motohama added, pushing his glasses up with disturbing enthusiasm. Ordinarily, Issei would have eagerly participated in this conversation. The 3 had earned their reputation as the perverted trio, through numerous ill-fated schemes to peek into the girls' changing rooms. Today, however, Issei found himself strangely detached from their enthusiasm. "You guys go ahead," he said. "I need to check something." His friends exchanged confused glances but shrugged and continued toward the main building. Already deep in discussion about optimal peeping locations, Issei turned toward the old school building, drawn by something he couldn't articulate. As he approached, the prickling sensation intensified, not danger exactly, but a resonance, as if something inside called to something inside him. He was halfway across the lawn when motion caught his peripheral vision, a blur of impossible speed. Issei's body moved before his mind processed the threat, sidestepping with fluid grace as a bicycle shot past, missing him by millimeters. The rider, apparently having lost control on the downhill approach, careened into a hedge with a crash and startled yelp. "Oh my God, I'm so sorry." A female voice emerged from the tangle of bicycle and foliage. "Are you okay? I couldn't stop. The brakes failed and, wait, how did you dodge that?" "I was going so fast." Issei blinked, equally surprised by his reflexive movement. He'd seen nothing consciously, yet his body had responded with perfect timing and spatial awareness. "Just lucky, I guess," he offered, extending a hand to help extract the girl from the hedge. She emerged with leaves in her long black hair, uniform rumpled but otherwise unharmed. Pretty, with wire-rimmed glasses that somehow enhanced rather than diminished her delicate features. Not someone Issei recognized. "Tsubaki Shinra," she introduced herself, brushing debris on her skirt with dignity despite her ungraceful entrance. "Transfer student, 2nd year. This wasn't exactly how I planned to make my first impression." "Issei Hyodo," he replied, oddly captivated by the calculating intelligence behind her embarrassed smile. "Also 2nd year. Are you hurt?" "Just my pride," Tsubaki said, then narrowed her eyes slightly. "Your reaction time was impressive. Do you practice martial arts?" Something in her tone suggested more than casual interest, triggering Issei's newfound wariness. "No formal training. Just good instincts." Before she could respond, the warning bell rang. Tsubaki straightened her glasses with a precise gesture. "Seems we're both late now. Perhaps you could show me to Class 2B after school, as apology for my near-vehicular assault." "That's my Class 2, Issei said, surprised. "But shouldn't I be the one apologizing to you after your accident?" Tsubaki smiled mysteriously. "Sometimes avoiding disaster is more suspicious than experiencing it, Hyodo-kun." With that cryptic statement, she gathered her belongings and headed toward the main building, leaving Issei with the distinct impression he'd just been evaluated against unknown criteria. The morning passed in a blur of introductions and syllabus reviews. Issei found himself seated near the window, 3 rows behind Tsubaki, whose occasional glances in his direction On maintained his sense of being under observation. More disconcerting was his own hyperawareness. He could somehow track the position of everyone in the classroom without looking, as if his brain processed spatial relationships on an unconscious level. During mathematics, the teacher's chalk snapped, sending a tiny fragment flying toward the back of the classroom. Issei's hand moved automatically, plucking it from the air inches from another student's eye. The movement had been smooth, effortless, and according to the stunned expressions of his classmates, barely visible in its speed. "Nice catch, Hyodo," the teacher commented with raised eyebrows. "Perhaps you should consider joining the baseball team." Tsubaki's eyes narrowed fractionally, the only indication she found anything unusual in his reaction. By lunchtime, Issei needed space to process the morning's events. He declined Matsuda and Motohama's invitation to their usual spot and instead found himself on the school roof, leaning against the chain-link fence that enclosed the perimeter. The city spread before him, ordinary and oblivious. Yet as Issei gazed across the urban landscape, his perception shifted subtly. Cybele currents flowed between certain buildings, concentrations of something like heat shimmer gathered at intersections, and thin barriers separated ordinary spaces from places that somehow existed at different frequencies. "What's happening to me?" he whispered, pressing his forehead against the cool metal fence. "Something interesting, apparently." Issei spun around, startled by the voice. A crimson-haired girl stood by the roof access door, regarding him with curious turquoise eyes. Even without the distinctive hair color, her beauty and confident posture would have identified her immediately. Rias Gramori, third-year student and president of the Occult Research Club, widely considered the school's most desirable female student. "Gramori-senpai," Issei acknowledged with surprised formality. They'd never spoken before. She moved in entirely different social circles than the perverted trio. She approached with elegant grace, stopping a respectful distance away. "You've been causing quite a stir today, Hyodo-kun. Exceptional reflexes, spatial awareness beyond normal human capability, and now," she gestured toward the cityscape, seeing things that shouldn't be visible to ordinary eyes. Alarm bells rang in Issei's mind. "I don't know what you mean." "No." Rias smiled knowingly. "Then what were you looking at so intently just now? What patterns caught your attention across the ordinary view?" Issei remained silent, unsure how to respond. Rias seemed to take his silence as confirmation. "The currents you're seeing are ley lines, channels of natural energy that flow through the earth. The shimmer at intersections, weak points between dimensional planes. The barriers, territory markers for various supernatural factions. That's," Issei began, then stopped, recognizing the futility of denial when she had so accurately named exactly what he'd been perceiving. "Impossible," Rias finished for him, amusement dancing in her eyes. "I suspect you've been experiencing many impossible things lately. Dreams perhaps, sensations of remembering abilities you've never learned, inexplicable awareness of threats before they manifest." Issei straightened, suddenly wary. "How could you know that?" "Because you're awakening to something beyond ordinary human potential," she answered simply. "The question is, what exactly are you becoming, Issei Hyodo? Or perhaps, remembering?" The word struck him like physical blow. Remembering. Not learning, not developing, remembering. As if these abilities were returning rather than emerging for the first time. "I don't understand," he said honestly. Rias studied him thoughtfully. "No, I don't suppose you do. Yet." She turned toward the door. "When you're ready for answers, come find me at the old school building. The Occult Research Club welcomes those with eyes that truly see." She departed as gracefully as she'd arrived, leaving Issei with more questions than answers. The remainder of the school day passed in distracted contemplation of her words. Even Tsubaki's continued subtle observation couldn't compete with the implications of Rias's invitation. When final classes ended, Issei found himself approached by yet another unexpected visitor, a handsome blonde boy he recognized as Kiba Yuto, second-year student and unofficial prince of Kuo Academy. "Hyodo-kun," Kiba greeted with a pleasant smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. "Bushu asked me to extend a formal invitation to visit our club this afternoon, if you're available." Bushu, President, Rias Gramori, the Occult Research Club. "I should probably head home." Issei hedged, uncharacteristically cautious. Something about Kiba's perfect posture whispered, trained fighter, to Issei's heightened awareness. Of course, Kiba nodded agreeably. Though I should mention that Shinra-san from the student council will be there as well. Something about comparing notes on your unique capabilities. That settled it. Whatever was happening, these people knew more than they were saying. If Tsubaki was involved with the student council and they were coordinating with the occult research club to observe him, running away would only delay inevitable confrontation. Lead the way, Issei decided, surprising himself with his calm acceptance of the situation. As they walked toward the old school building, Kiba maintained a stream of pleasant small talk that Issei barely registered. His attention kept slipping to the strange blue-tinted overlay that occasionally flickered across his vision, highlighting what appeared to be a faint energy signature surrounding Kiba, something non-human. The old school building exuded an atmosphere of contained power. Climbing the worn wooden stairs behind Kiba, Issei felt the air grow heavy with expectation. At the second-floor landing, Kiba paused before an ornate door bearing the Occult Research Club's emblem. "After you," he said, opening the door with a formal gesture. Issei stepped into a Victorian-style sitting room lit by candles despite the afternoon sun filtering through heavy curtains. Ornate furnishings, occult symbols discreetly incorporated into the decor, and an atmosphere of carefully cultivated mystique filled the space. Rias Gramori sat behind an antique desk, while a petite white-haired girl occupied a corner sofa, expressionlessly eating sweets. Near the window stood a raven-haired beauty whose striking violet eyes assessed Issei with undisguised curiosity. "Welcome, Issei Hyodo," Rias greeted formally. "I see you've decided to accept our invitation." "Seemed rude to refuse when you've apparently been monitoring me all day," Issei replied with surprising confidence, earning a raised eyebrow from the raven-haired girl. "Akano Himahima," she introduced herself with a slight bow. "Vice President of the Occult Research Club. Your awareness is certainly above average for a human." Human. The word hung in the air like a revelation. If she specifically identified him as human, what did that make them? The door opened again, admitting Tsubaki and a petite girl with short black hair and authoritative bearing. "Kaichu." Rias acknowledged the newcomer. "Thank you for joining us. I believe this matter concerns both our groups." Indeed. The girl, apparently the student council president, adjusted her glasses in a gesture reminiscent of Tsubaki's earlier mannerism. "I am Sona Shitori, student council president. Though that is merely my school identity. Everyone has secrets here, it seems," Issei observed, maintaining outward calm despite his racing thoughts. "Why don't we start with why you're all so interested in me? Until this morning, I was just an ordinary student. Were you?" Rias asked pointedly. "The dreams began 3 months ago, did they not? The enhanced reflexes, the spatial awareness, the ability to perceive energy currents, these aren't recent developments." Issei tensed. "How could you possibly know when my dreams started?" "Because," Sona interjected, "3 months ago, a powerful magical anomaly manifested in this town, centered on your home. We've been monitoring the situation since then." "Magical anomaly," Issei repeated flatly. "You expect me to believe in magic?" Rias smiled indulgently and raised her hand. A crimson circle materialized in her palm, swirling with arcane symbols before condensing into a sphere of pulsing energy. "What we expect, Issei Hyodo, is for you to accept the evidence of your own enhanced perception." Rather than shock or disbelief, Issei felt a strange sense of validation. The display confirmed what some deep part of him already knew, that reality contained dimensions beyond ordinary perception, forces that could be harnessed by those with the right capabilities. "You're not human," he stated rather than asked. "We are devils," Rias confirmed matter-of-factly. "Sona and I are high-ranking devil heiresses who oversee this territory." "Akano, Kaneko," she gestured to the white-haired girl still eating sweets, "and Kiba are members of my peerage. Tsubaki belongs to Sona's group." "Devils," Issei repeated, the word resonating with something in his subconscious. "With magical powers and territory, like supernatural Yakuza." Akano laughed melodiously. "An oversimplification, but not entirely inaccurate. We maintain balance in this region, protecting it from malicious supernatural entities while identifying humans with potential." "Potential for what?" "Reincarnation as devils, typically," Sona explained clinically. Humans with sacred gears or unusual magical aptitude are valuable additions to a devil's peerage. Sacred gears. Divine artifacts bestowed upon certain humans, Tsubaki elaborated. Tools created by the biblical god with various abilities. Issei processed this information with surprising equanimity. Rather than overwhelming him, each revelation seemed to click into place like puzzle pieces, as if some part of him had been waiting for this confirmation of a wider reality. And you think I have one of these sacred gears? Rias and Sona exchanged glances. Initially, yes, Rias admitted. The energy signature suggested a dormant sacred gear. But your recent developments, they don't match any known sacred gear manifestation. Your abilities are something else entirely. The spatial awareness, the reflex enhancement, the perceptual capabilities, these suggest something fundamentally different from conventional magic or sacred gear systems, Sona added. What we'd like to know, Tsubaki interjected, studying Issei intently. As if you've experienced any memory fragments associated with these abilities. Anything that might explain their origin. The name from his dreams echoed in Issei's mind, Gojo Satoru. Before he could decide whether to share this information, a sharp pain lanced through his head, accompanied by a vivid flash of memory that wasn't his own. A man with white hair and blindfolded eyes stands amid devastation, facing inhuman opponents with casual arrogance. Infinity between you and me, he states, as reality distorts around him, creating an impenetrable barrier where attacks simply stop. Asterisk. Issei. Rias's voice sounded distant through the memory cascade. He blinked, returning to the present to find everyone watching him with varying degrees of concern and fascination. I need some air, he managed, moving toward the window. As he reached for the latch, something outside caught his attention, a distortion in reality, visible only through the strange blue filter that occasionally overlaid his vision. There's something out there, he said suddenly, near the eastern perimeter of the school grounds. Something wrong. Rias moved beside him, peering through the glass. I don't sense anything unusual. It's there, Issei insisted, certainty flooding him. Something that doesn't belong in this world. Not devil, not human, something else entirely. Akino joined them, expression serious. If he's right, we should investigate. Particularly given the recent incidents in town. Incidents? Issei asked. 3 unexplained disappearances in the past week, Sona supplied. No evidence, no witnesses. People simply vanished, leaving behind only a strange residue that matches no known supernatural signature. We should check it out, Kiba suggested, hand moving subtly toward his waist where Issei somehow knew a weapon would materialize if needed. Agreed, Rias decided. Issei, you should remain here where it's safe. No. The refusal emerged with uncharacteristic authority. Whatever's out there, I can see it when you can't. You need me. A tense silence followed as Rias assessed him with newfound interest. Very well, but stay behind us and follow instructions immediately if danger arises. The group moved with practiced efficiency, exiting the building and crossing the now empty school grounds toward the eastern boundary. As they approached the tree line that separated school property from an adjacent park, Issei's perception of the distortion intensified. There, he pointed toward a dense cluster of trees. It's feeding on something. I still sense nothing. Rias frowned, concern evident. Wait, Akino held up her hand, lightning crackling between her fingers. There's a very faint energy signature, unlike anything I've encountered before. Describe what you're seeing, Hyodo, Sona instructed clinically. Issei struggled to articulate the visual information. It's like a concentration of negative space. Not invisible exactly, but existing at a different vibrational frequency. It's consuming ambient energy from its surroundings, creating a localized entropy acceleration. The technical precision of his description surprised even him, knowledge he shouldn't possess flowing naturally from some hidden reservoir of experience. We need to contain it before it notices us, Tsubaki suggested, already tracing G-complex geometric patterns in the air that shimmered with subtle power. Too late. The entity, whatever it was, shifted, becoming aware of their presence. Through Issei's enhanced perception, it read to congeal into a more definite form, a humanoid shape composed of distorted space and negative energy, with a grotesque mask-like formation where a face should be. Cursed spirit, Issei whispered. the term emerging unbidden from his subconscious. The entity surged toward them with impossible speed. Devils moved with preternatural quickness, Kiba materializing a sword from nowhere, Akeno summoning lightning. Rias preparing a crimson energy sphere, but their reactions came a fraction too slow. Time seemed to slow for Issei as the creature closed the distance. Without conscious decision, his hand extended. Fingers splayed as knowledge older than himself guided his actions. Between the advancing entity and their group, space itself changed. Not a barrier in conventional terms, but an manipulation of infinity itself, the distance between them and the creature becoming endless while physically appearing unchanged. The cursed spirit slammed into this infinite space and stopped. Not deflected or repelled, but caught in a paradox of distance it couldn't resolve. Everyone stared in stunned silence, first at the suspended entity, then at Issei, whose outstretched hand trembled not with effort but with the shock of wielding power he didn't understand. Impossible, Sona breathed, adjusting her glasses as if doubting her vision. What did you just do? Rias demanded, amazement overriding her usual composure. Issei stared at his hand, equally bewildered. I extended the concept of infinity between us and the threat. Distance became infinite within finite space. The technical explanation came naturally, though he had no idea how he knew such concepts. That's not devil magic, Akeno observed quietly. Nor angel, fallen, or any conventional supernatural system. Entity strained against the spatial distortion, its mask-like face contorting with silent fury. Cracks began appearing in the invisible boundary Issei had created. It's breaking through, he warned, instinctively understanding the mechanics involved. This technique is incomplete. I can't maintain it. Then we finish this quickly, Rias decided, stepping forward. Akeno, Kiba, Containment Pattern 3. They moved with practiced coordination, Kiba circling to flank while Akeno took to the air on midnight wings that had suddenly manifested from her back. The revelation that these devils see, old literally fly barely registered through Issei's concentration on maintaining the spatial distortion. As the barrier shattered, Akeno struck with lightning that illuminated the entire area with blinding intensity. Simultaneously, Kiba attacked from behind with blinding speed, his blade glowing with concentrated energy. The creature howled, a sound that existed beyond audible frequency yet solemn. Ihao transferred its agonized rage directly to the mind. It lashed out, sending Kiba flying backward with a casual swipe that broke through his guard like tissue paper. Physical attacks have limited effect, Issei called out, analysis flowing from that strange wellspring of knowledge. Its core existence operates on a different principle than conventional matter. Then we use unconventional means, Rias responded, stepping forward as crimson energy gathered around her in oppressive waves. Stand back. The power she unleashed, the power of destruction, some part of Issei's mind supplied, shed over the entity in cascading waves of disintegration. Where it touched, reality itself seemed to unravel, breaking down fundamental particles into nothingness. The cursed spirit shrieked as portions of its amorphous form dissolved. But rather than retreating, it surged forward with desperate intensity, directly toward Issei. It's targeting you specifically, Tsubaki shouted, throwing herself between Issei and the creature. Hands forming complex seals that generated a multi-layered barrier. The entity smashed through her defenses with terrifying ease, sending her tumbling backward. As it closed on Issei, strange recognition flashed through its mask-like features, as if it somehow knew him. Memory exploded through Issei's consciousness. Cursed spirits, manifestations of negative huma, and emotions given form through cursed energy. The stronger the emotion, the more powerful the curse. Only jujutsu sorcerers with their specialized techniques can effectively combat higher-grade cursed spirits. The strongest technique against curses, Limitless, coupled with the 6 eyes. Asterisk. Gojo Satoru, Limitless, 6 eyes. Past and present collided in Issei's mind as the cursed spirit lunged for him. Instinct overrode confusion. His hands formed a triangle, thumbs and index fingers connecting as blue energy erupted around him. Not the crimson of devil power but something more fundamental, as if He were manipulating the very fabric of reality. If infinity doesn't work, he heard himself say in a voice tinged with unfamiliar confidence, then convergence will. Between his hands, space collapsed inward, the opposite of infinity. Where infinity expanded distance endlessly, this technique compressed space to a singularity, forcing matter and energy into impossible density. Hollow purple, violet-tinged energy, neither positive nor negative but the catastrophic result of their collision, erupted from the convergence point. It struck the cursed spirit with pinpoint precision, creating not an explosion but an implosion, a localized collapse of dimensional integrity that simply erased the entity from existence. Silence fell over the battlefield. Where the cursed spirit had been, nothing remained, not even residual energy. The technique had removed it so completely that reality itself seemed to have forgotten its presence. Issei swayed, suddenly exhausted beyond measure. His vision tunneled, the strange blue perception fading as consciousness began to slip away. The last thing he saw before collapsing was Rias Grimori's face, expression caught between concern and triumphant validation. "I knew it," her distant voice echoed. "He's not just awakening to power, he's remembering it." Consciousness returned gradually, bringing with it the soft sensation of velvet beneath his back. Issei opened his eyes to find himself on the ornate sofa in the Occult Research Club room, surrounded by thoughtful expressions. "Welcome back," Rias greeted, seated across from him. "How do you feel?" "Like I've been hit by a truck," Issei answered honestly, sitting up slowly. "What happened? You tell us," Sona countered from her position near the window. "That technique you used, it wasn't devil magic, sacred gear activation, or any known supernatural system. You collapsed immediately afterward from apparent magical exhaustion. Memories of the encounter filtered back, the cursed spirit, the instinctive response. The technique that had annihilated it completely." "Hollow purple," he murmured, the name resonating with something deep in his psyche. "The convergence of positive, and negative energy to create a destructive singularity. Those are not concepts found in devil magical theory," Tsubaki noted, watching him with scholarly fascination. Her uniform showed signs of damage from the earlier confrontation, though she herself appeared uninjured. "Where did you learn such a technique?" Rias asked directly. Issei hesitated, then decided truth was his only viable option. "I didn't learn it. I remembered it." "Remembered?" Akeno prompted. "In my dreams," Issei explained, pieces finally connecting in his own mind. "For months I've been dreaming of another Leaf. Another person with extraordinary powers. A man named Gojo Satoru who could manipulate space itself through techniques called Limitless. Someone who possessed special eyes that allowed him to perceive the world's fundamental structure." The name triggered no recognition among the devils present, confirming Issei's suspicion that Gojo existed outside their supernatural framework. "Reincarnation," Rias suggested thoughtfully. "Not devil reincarnation through evil pieces, but the human concept, a soul returning with memories of past existence." "That would explain the magical anomaly we detected," Sona acknowledged. "A soul carrying power from another reality or timeline integrating with its new vessel. The convergence initiated 3 months ago when the dreams began," Tsubaki theorized. "And accelerated today when he encountered supernatural entities that triggered latent combat responses." Issei listened to their analysis with strange detachment. Their technical discussion could capture the disorienting experience of carrying another person's memories, skills, and powers, of being simultaneously Issei Hyodo and Gojo Satoru without fully embodying either. "The cursed spirit recognized me," he interrupted their theorizing. "That's why it targeted me specifically. It knew what I am, or what I was. Which raises concerning questions," Rias noted grimly. "If creatures from this Gojo Satoru's world are manifesting here, seeking you specifically, then more will come," Akeno finished. "Possibly stronger ones. I need to understand what's happening to me," Issei said with sudden determination. "These abilities, these memories, I can't control them properly. That technique drained me completely because I don't understand the principles behind it." "We'll help you," Rias offered immediately, earning a sharp glance from Sona. "Both our groups have resources and knowledge that might prove useful, even if your powers operate on different principles." "With conditions," Sona amended. "These abilities make you extremely valuable to various supernatural factions. If word spreads about a human who can manipulate space itself." The implication hung heavily in the air. Power attracted attention, often dangerous attention. "What do you propose?" Issei asked warily. "An alliance," Rias suggested. Not reincarnation as a devil, at least not until we understand how it might affect your unique abilities, but formal association with both our groups. We provide protection, training resources, and information about the supernatural world. You contribute your capabilities to defending this territory. Issei considered the offer. 24 hours ago, he'd been an ordinary high school student whose greatest concern was finding opportunities to peek into the girls' changing room. Now he was negotiating supernatural allegiance while processing memories of another lifetime. I need time to think, he said finally. Of course, Rias agreed magnanimously. Though I should mention that time may be limited. If one cursed spirit found you, others will follow, Issei completed grimly. I understand. Sona checked her watch. It's getting late. We should continue this discussion tomorrow after you've had time to process today's events. As if on cue, Akano placed a small piece of paper in Issei's hand. My number, she explained with a mysterious smile. In case you encounter anything unusual tonight, I'm quite interested in learning more about these limitless techniques of yours. The subtle emphasis she placed on interested carried unmistakable undertones that would normally have sent Issei into paroxysms of perverted delight. Now, however, he simply nodded with calm appreciation for the practical precaution. This more red response seemed to intrigue Akano further, her violet eyes studying him with heightened curiosity. Kiba will escort you home, Rias decided, effectively ending the meeting. We've placed protective barriers around your residence, but additional security seems prudent given today's events. As they prepared to leave, Tsubaki approached Issei directly. That barrier technique you used initially, the infinity concept. Would you be willing to explain the theoretical framework sometime? From an onmyoji perspective, spatial manipulation of that nature has fascinating implications. Her scholarly interest seemed genuine, though Issei detected deeper curiosity beneath the academic request. Once I understand it better myself, he promised. Outside, twilight had settled over Kuo town, stray lights creating pools of illumination along the quiet streets. Kiba walked beside Issei in companionable silence, though his relaxed posture belied constant vigilance. How long have you been a devil? Issei asked eventually. Several years, Kiba replied without elaboration. After a pause, he added, Bushu saved my life. Being part of her peerage gave me purpose and family when I had nothing. The simple sincerity in his voice suggested complex history beneath the princely exterior. Before Issei could inquire further, they rounded a corner and encountered a sight that stopped them both. A young woman with long black hair and violet eyes, different from Akano's but similarly striking, stood beneath a streetlight, wearing what appeared to be a fetishistic version of church attire. Her expression brightened upon seeing Issei. There you are, she called sweetly. I've been looking everywhere for you. Kiba tensed beside him, hand moving subtly to prepare for sword manifestation. Fallen angel, he whispered. Be careful. Issei studied the woman, perception shifting to reveal dark wings concealed on another plane of existence, wings that would manifest with a thought. I don't believe we've met, he replied cautiously. The woman pouted playfully. Don't be cruel, Issei-kun. I'm Yuma Amano. We have a date this weekend, remember? Her words triggered another flash of insight, a compulsion attempt. Magical suggestion designed to confuse and manipulate perception. No, Issei stated firmly, something of Gojo's absolute confidence coloring his tone. We don't. The fallen angel's expression shifted. Sweet facade cracking to reveal calculating malice. Smart boy. Most humans are so easily influenced. Her eyes flicked to Kiba. And already claimed by devils, I see. How disappointing. What do you want? Kiba demanded, dropping all pretense of casual friendliness. Information. Originally, she answered with surprising candor. About the unusual energy signature emanating from this one. She nodded toward Issei. But now I'm more interested in how a human repelled Rainer's mental suggestion so easily. Rainer, is that your actual name? Issei asked. The fallen angel smiled thinly. Clever and perceptive, increasingly interesting. He's under Grimoire protection, Kiba stated formally. Any action against him constitutes violation of territory agreements. Rainer laughed lightly. Treaties with devils mean little to us these days. Besides, her expression turned predatory. I merely wished to extend a friendly invitation. Our leadership will devalue conversation with someone of such unique capabilities. Not interested, Issei replied flatly. Something dangerous flashed through Rainer's eyes. Your interest is irrelevant. What matters is your potential threat, or value. Wings materialized behind her, black feathered appendages that seemed to absorb rather than reflect the streetlight's illumination. Consider this a warning, Issei Hyodo. Whatever you're becoming has attracted attention from multiple factions. Choose your allies carefully. With that ominous advisory, she launched skyward, disappearing into the night with unnatural speed. Well, Hiba commented dryly, that complicates matters. Issei stared after the fallen angel, processing implications. She mentioned others were interested in my energy signature. How many supernatural factions are monitoring me exactly? More than you'd find comfortable, Hiba admitted. Devils, angels, fallen angels, we all maintain presence in major population centers. ND monitor for potential threats or assets. They resumed walking, tension lingering in Kiba's vigilant posture. You should accept Bushu's offer, the devil said eventually. Remaining unaffiliate, D with increasingly visible powers will only attract more dangerous attention. Perhaps, Issei acknowledged noncommittally. But alliances require trust, and I'm not sure I understand enough about this world, or myself, to make such commitments yet. Understandable, Hiba conceded. Just remember that indecision is itself a choice with consequences. They reached Issei's home without further incident. Hiba departed with formal courtesy, promising to meet Issei the following morning for escort to school, a protective measure disguised as friendly routine. Inside, Issei's parents greeted him. With ordinary concerns about his late return, he fabricated a plausible explanation about club exploration activities, marveling at how surreal ordinary conversation felt after the day's revelations. Later, in his bedroom, Issei sat cross-legged on his bed, eyes closed in meditation. The technique came naturally, another borrowed skill from Gojo Satoru's lifetime of training. As his consciousness settled, he directed focus inward, searching for connections between his current self and the memories that increasingly surfaced. Within this meditative state, conceptual space materialized around him, neither dream nor reality but something between. In this liminal domain, a figure gradually coalesced opposite him, tall, white-haired, eyes concealed behind dark glasses. About time you showed up, the figure commented with casual arrogance. I was beginning to think you'd never access this connection consciously. Gojo Satoru, Issei acknowledged, unsurprised by this manifestation of his previous incarnation. The one and only, Gojo confirmed with characteristic self-assurance. Well, technically you're also me now, which makes things conceptually interesting. Why am I remembering you now? Why are cursed spirits appearing in this world? Gojo's expression turned serious behind his glasses. Barriers between realities are thinning. My techniques, our techniques, manipulate space itself. As you awaken to these abilities, you're unconsciously creating connections between dimensions that shouldn't interact. I'm causing this? Issei asked, alarmed. Not intentionally, Gojo shrugged. Think of it as resonance. Your awakening powers send ripples across dimensional boundaries. Things that exist at similar frequencies respond, including cursed spirits that sense familiar energy. How do I stop it? You don't, Gojo stated bluntly. You master it, control it. The Limitless technique and Six Eyes aren't just combat abilities, they're fundamental reality manipulation. With proper training, you can strengthen boundaries rather than weaken them. And if I can't, Gojo smiled with surprising gentleness. You can. You're me, after all, the strongest jujutsu sorcerer reborn in a world of devils and angels. Fascinating scenario, really, much more interesting than my original existence. People could die if more powerful cursed spirits cross over, Issei protested. Then get stronger faster. Gojo replied simply. You have advantages I didn't. Allies with different magical systems, no jujutsu political restrictions, and my lifetime of experience gradually awakening in your consciousness. But, no buts, Gojo interrupted firmly. I didn't survive century-class cursed spirits and manipulative elders by hesitating. Neither will you. His form began fading as the meditative connection weakened. Remember, infinity exists in the convergence of possibilities. Your power limits nothing except limitation itself. With that cryptic statement, the manifestation dissolved, leaving Issei alone in darkness as meditation transitioned to natural sleep. His dreams that night weren't fragmented memories but cohesive training sequences, as if Gojo Satoru's consciousness actively transferred knowledge during unconscious states. He awoke at dawn, mind clearer than it had been in months. The path forward remained uncertain, but purpose had crystallized overnight. Whatever he was becoming, fusion of Issei Hyodo and Gojo Satoru, bridge between supernatural worlds, target for multiple factions, required preparation beyond ordinary measures. The alarm clock at 5:47 a.m., exactly 24 hours since yesterday's awakening. Issei extended his hand, focusing intention as blue energy flickered between his fingers. Space distorted subtly, creating infinitesimal boundary between points that appeared connected. Limitless, he whispered, watching reality respond to his will. The technique terminated instantly, control still imperfect, but progress evident. Outside his window, dawn illuminated Kuo town, ordinary on its surface but increasingly revealed as nexus of supernatural forces. Somewhere within that urban landscape, devils made plans, fallen angels gathered intelligence, and cursed spirits potentially sought manifestation. Issei Hyodo, once ordinary student, now awakening reincarnation of the strongest jujutsu sorcerer, smiled with growing confidence. Yesterday, these revelations had overwhelmed him. Today, they represented opportunity, to protect, to grow, to discover the true potential of his unique existence. After all, as Gojo would say, with the 6 eyes and limitless, the possibilities themselves were infinite. Chapter 1 and Chapter 2, Infinity between us. Morning sunlight filtered through Issei's bedroom window, casting geometric patterns across the floor. He stood before the mirror, examining his reflection with scientific detachment. Physically, nothing had changed. Same brown hair, same average build, same ordinary Japanese teenager staring back at him. But when he activated what he now understood as cursed energy, a subtle blue luminescence rippled across his vision, altering his perception. Through this enhanced sight, Issei observed the metaphysical layer superimposed over physical reality. His own body contained intricate energy channels unlike the devil signatures he'd witnessed yesterday. Neither demonic nor holy, something fundamentally different. 6 eyes, he murmured, naming the perceptual ability that allowed him to see cursed energy and spatial distortions. Not fully awakened yet, but developing rapidly since yesterday's confrontation. Issei extended his hand, concentrating on the space between his palm and the mirror. Infinity. Reality distorted subtly, not visible to normal percept. Ion but clear through his enhanced vision. The technique lasted 3 seconds before dissolving, longer than yesterday's attempt but still woefully inadequate compared to the mastery shown in his fragmentary memories. A knock interrupted his practice. Issei, his mother called through the door. "There's a boy from school waiting for you downstairs. Yuto-kun, Hiba's promised escort." "Thanks, Mom. Tell him I'll be right down." Issei gathered his school bag, mind already calculating potential threats. Fallen angels had revealed interest in him last night. Cursed spirits had somehow crossed dimensional boundaries. 2 devil heiresses monitored his developing abilities. For someone who'd been invisible to the supernatural world 3 days ago, he'd accumulated remarkable attention. Downstairs, Hiba waited with perfect composure, charming Issei's mother with practiced ease. "Your friend is so polite," she whispered as Issei entered the kitchen. "You could learn something from him." If she only knew the polite friend was actually a devil assigned as his supernatural bodyguard. The thought nearly made Issei laugh. "Ready?" Hiba asked with a pleasant smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. "As I'll ever be." They departed with casual farewells that felt surreally normal given the circumstances. Outside, Hiba maintained the friendly pretense until they turned the corner. "We detected unusual energy fluctuations from your house this morning," he said without preamble. "Training." Issei nodded, attempting to. "These abilities don't come with an instruction manual, don't they?" Hiba raised an eyebrow. "Those memories you mentioned, they don't contain technical knowledge." "Fragments," Issei admitted. "More comprehensive during dreams, but difficult to access consciously. Like trying to read a book while someone rapidly flips the pages." Bushu might have techniques that could help with memory recovery. Issei considered this as they walked. Devils clearly wanted access to his abilities, which warranted caution. Yet genuine assistance with his developing powers could prove invaluable, especially if more cursed spirits appeared. All consider it. The Y approached the temple where Issei had sensed the boundary yesterday. The old groundskeeper was sweeping the entrance steps, his movements precise despite apparent age. As they passed, the old man looked up, eyes widening fractionally upon seeing Issei. The boundary walker returns, he called, leaning on his broom. And with a sword spirit as companion. Interesting times indeed. Kiba tensed beside him. You know what I am. The old man chuckled. These eyes have watched Kuo's spiritual boundaries for 60 years, young devil. Little escapes notice when you know where to look. His attention returned to Issei. But you see differently now, don't you? Not just the boundaries but what lies between them. Issei approached cautiously. Who are you? Just an old man maintaining ancient wards. He gestured toward worn stone markers partially hidden by ornamental shrubs. These protected Kuo long before devils claimed territory here. Different system, different purpose. Through Six Eyes perception, Issei noted the markers radiated subtle energy unlike devil magic. More structured, more geometric, reminiscent of techniques half remembered from Gojo's consciousness. Jujutsu barriers, he murmured. Recognition surfacing. The old man's eyebrows rose. An uncommon term in these parts. Yet accurate. He studied Issei with renewed intensity. You carry old knowledge in young eyes. Rebirth brings opportunity and danger alike. Do you know what's happening to me? The wheel turns, souls return, the groundskeeper replied cryptically. When boundaries between worlds thin, what was separate becomes connected. He resumed sweeping. Visit when you're ready to learn proper barrier techniques. The temple archives contain scrolls on infinity principles that might interest you. With that enigmatic invitation, he continued his work, effectively dismissing them. What was that about? Kiba asked as they resumed walking. I'm not entirely sure, Issei admitted. But I think he's connected to the Jujutsu world somehow, the magical system from my previous life. Another faction to consider, Kiba noted with professional concern. Bushu should know about this. Issei nodded absently, mind still processing the encounter. If Jujutsu knowledge existed in this world independently of his reincarnated memories, perhaps the convergence between realities ran deeper than he'd suspected. Kuo Academy bustled with ordinary student activity, a sharp contrast to the supernatural complexities now coloring Issei's perception. As he and Kiba entered the main courtyard, attention immediately focused on them, primarily female students whispering about Kiba while shooting curious glances at Issei. Your fan club seems confused by our sudden friendship, Issei observed dryly. Kiba smiled diplomatically. Social hierarchies matter less than most students realize. Says the school prince to the notorious pervert. Former notorious pervert, Kiba corrected. Your behavior has notably shifted since yesterday. No inappropriate comments, no lecherous staring, quite the transformation. Issei hadn't consciously noticed this change, but Kiba's observation rang true. The compulsive interest in female anatomy that had dominated his adolescent mind had receded, not disappeared, but mellowed into more balanced appreciation. Another effect of Gojo's influence, perhaps. The Jujutsu sorcerer had apparently maintained healthy appreciation for attractive women without making it his personality cornerstone. Evolution of priorities, Issei offered with a shrug. They separated at the main entrance. Kiba reminding Issei that the occult research club expected him after classes. The unspoken implication hung between them. The offer of alliance remained open, but patience had limits. Classroom 2B already contained several students when Issei entered. Tsubaki Shinra sat reading near the window, her composed demeanor betraying nothing of yesterday's supernatural confrontation. When Issei passed her desk, she glanced up briefly. Hyodo-kun, she acknowledged formally. I trust you recovered from yesterday's exertion. Mostly, he replied, noting T. He calculated precision of her wording, vague enough for public conversation yet specific to their shared experience. Though questions remain, questions with complex answers, Tsubaki agreed, adjusting her glasses. Perhaps we could discuss theory during lunch. The student council room offers privacy for academic discourse. The invitation surprised him. While Sona Shitori's peerage clearly shared Rias's interest in his abilities, he hadn't expected direct engagement from Tsubaki. I'd like that, Issei decided, genuinely curious about her perspective. Morning classes proceeded with surreal normalcy, mathematics, literature, history, while Issei's consciousness navigated parallel awareness of both mundane education and supernatural reality. Occasionally, memories from Gojo's life CED without warning, technical knowledge about cursed energy manipulation, combat strategies against various spirit classifications, theoretical frameworks for spatial distortion techniques. During Japanese literature, the teacher's analysis of symbolic boundaries in classical poetry triggered a cascade of information about domain barriers and mental landscape construction. Issei found himself automatically taking notes on conceptual parallels between literary symbolism and jujutsu domain theory. Beside him, Tsubaki noticed his unusual note-taking, eyebrow-raising fractionally at the complex geometric diagrams appearing alongside traditional literary analysis. Her expression remained neutral, but Issei sensed her keen interest. When lunch period arrived, Matsuda and Motohama approached Issei's desk with suspicious expressions. Fraternizing with the enemy yesterday, walking with Prince Charming this morning, Matsuda accused dramatically. What's happening to you, Issei? Abandoning the sacred brotherhood of perverts. Motohama adjusted his glasses with scientific precision. Statistical analysis of your behavioral patterns over the past 24 hours shows 87.3% reduction in breast-focused eye movement and 94.1% decrease in suggestive comments. Diagnosis: personality alteration or body snatching. A week ago, Issei would have panicked at their accusations or launched INTO passionate defense of perversion as lifestyle choice. Now, he found himself responding with amused detachment. Personal growth, guys. We're second years now, time to develop interests beyond peeking into changing rooms. His friend stared in horror. Body snatching confirmed, Motohama whispered. The real Issei would never suggest maturity as positive development. We'll save you from whatever mind control you're under. Matsuda vowed dramatically. Issei laughed, genuinely amused by their theatrics. I appreciate the concern, but I'm just evolving. Still the same person, just with expanded horizons. He stood, gathering his notes. Actually, I have a meeting with the student council about a project. Catch you guys later. He left them gaping in disbelief, feeling simultaneously. Why guilty for the abrupt social transition yet liberated from patterns that suddenly seemed childish compared to his current reality. The student council room occupied premium space in the administration building, spacious, well-furnished, with large windows overlooking the academy grounds. Tsubaki waited inside, efficiently arranging documents on a central meeting table. Right on time, she noted with approval. Punctuality suggests disciplined mind, or good luck, Issei countered with a small smile. You strike me as someone who creates circumstances rather than relying on fortune, Tsubaki observed, gesturing toward a chair opposite hers. Please, sit. Kaichu authorized this conversation but won't join us, she's attending administrative meetings regarding the upcoming interschule competition. Issei settled into the offered seat, noting the precise arrangement of materials before him. Printouts of magical theory texts, diagrams of energy circulation systems, and what appeared to be historical records of unusual phenomena. You've been researching me, he observed without accusation. Researching the theoretical framework for your abilities, Tsubaki corrected. Different undertaking entirely. She selected a particular diagram, sliding it forward. This represents standard devil energy manipulation. Notice the circulatory pattern and conversion mechanics. The document showed complex magical circuitry, energy flowing through predetermined channels to produce specific effects. Comparatively, she continued, presenting another diagram. This represents Onmyoji-in RGY manipulation from my personal tradition. Different structure, different principles, yet achieving similar reality-affecting outcomes. Issei studied both systems, Six Eyes perception automatically analyzing underlying principles. Devil magic seems more adaptable but less efficient. Onmyoji techniques sacrifice flexibility for precision and reduced energy consumption. Tsubaki's eyebrows rose, fractionally, the equivalent of open astonishment from her composed demeanor. A remarkably accurate assessment from someone with minimal exposure to either system. Your analytical abilities are impressive. Six eyes, Issei explained. They perceive the fundamental structure of supernatural phenomena, not just surface manifestations. He gestured toward her diagrams. Both systems manipulate existing energy through predetermined pathways to achieve effects within established parameters. While your abilities seem to operate differently, Tsubaki concluded. Hence my interest. Yesterday, wise spatial manipulation demonstrated principles outside conventional magical frameworks. She leaned forward slightly. Would you explain the theoretical basis? Purely academic interest, I assure you. Issei considered her request. While caution remained advisable, Tsubaki's scholarly approach felt genuinely motivated by intellectual curiosity rather than strategic advantage seeking. Besides, articulating the concepts might help clarify his own understanding. The limitless technique manipulates spatial infinity, he began, finding words for knowledge that existed more as intuition than conscious understanding. Conventional barriers create defined boundaries between points. Limitless instead expands the concept of between itself. He reached for paper, sketching a simple diagram showing 2 points. From normal perception, the distance between these points is finite and traversable. Through Limitless, I can make that distance infinite while maintaining the apparent physical relationship. An attack that appears to cross mere centimeters actually travels forever, never reaching its target. Tsubaki studied his explanation with intense concentration. Fascinating. Not energy manipulation but concept manipulation, altering fundamental properties of space itself. She made precise notes in elegant handwriting. This operates entirely outside conventional magical parameters. No wonder our detection systems classified it as anomalous. The technique requires understanding infinity as mathematical concept rather than metaphorical abstraction, Issei continued, surprising himself with the technical precision flowing from half-remembered knowledge. Controlling infinity demands perfect calculation capabilities. Hence the 6 eyes, Tsubaki interjected, connection forming. They provide necessary computational processing to manage otherwise impossible mathematical complexity. Exactly. Issei felt unexpected satisfaction at her quick comprehension. Limitless wit. How 6 eyes would be like having a nuclear reactor without control systems. Catastrophic, Tsubaki murmured, making additional notes. After a moment's consideration, she retrieved another document. From her organized materials, this one showing ancient Japanese calligraphy alongside mathematical formulas. This is from restricted Onmyoji archives, she explained. 10th century documentation a sorcerer who allegedly manipulated space through infinity barriers, before disappearing from historical record. The mathematical principles described share remarkable similarity with your explanation. Issei examined the document with growing fascination. The formulas, while expressed in archaic notation, outlined spatial manipulation through dimensional convergence principles strikingly similar to limitless techniques. This suggests jujutsu sorcery existed in this world's history, he realized, implications cascading through his understanding. Which means my reincarnation didn't introduce these concepts. They were already here but perhaps forgotten or evolved into different magical systems. An intriguing hypothesis, Tsubaki agreed. It raises questions about the relationship between seemingly discrete supernatural frameworks. Perhaps what appear as separate magical traditions actually represent evolutionary branches from common conceptual roots. Their discussion continued. Theoretical exploration deepening as they discovered unexpected parallels between jujutsu principles and elements of both devil magic and onmyoji techniques. Tsubaki proved a surprisingly engaging intellectual partner, her analytical precision complementing Issei's intuitive grasp of spatial concepts. They lost track of time until the council room door opened, admitting Sona Shitori with immaculate timing as lunch period concluded. I trust your academic discussion proved illuminating, she inquired, assessing the papers strewn across the table with calculating efficiency. Remarkably so, Tsubaki affirmed. Gathering materials with practiced precision. Hyodo-kun's theoretical framework offers valuable perspective on several long-standing magical classification questions. I'm pleased to hear it. Sona adjusted her glasses, attention shifting to Issei. I understand you'll be meeting with Rias after school. While our approaches differ in many respects, both our houses share concern about your safety and development. Consider carefully what alliance might best serve your interests. The political subtext wasn't particularly subtle, a gentle reminder that Citri offered different advantages than Grimori. I appreciate the consideration, Issei responded diplomatically. And thank you for authorizing this discussion. It's helped clarify several aspects of my developing abilities. Sona nodded appreciatively at his measured response, a notable improvement over the perverted reputation that had previously defined his school identity. As Issei prepared to leave, I handed him a small card embossed with elegant calligraphy. My contact information, she explained. Should you have further theoretical insights to discuss. The gesture seemed simultaneously practical and personally meaningful, professional courtesy with undertones of genuine intellectual connection. Thank you, Issei replied, tucking the card carefully into his notebook. I'd like to continue our discussion sometime. Tsubaki's expression remained composed, but something warmed in her eyes. As would I. Afternoon classes passed in relative normalcy until final period, when Issei's heightened perception detected familiar energy signatures approaching the main building. Through the classroom window, he observed Rias and Akino crossing the courtyard with purposeful strides. 5 minutes before dismissal, a first-year student arrived with official-looking paperwork. Message for Hyodo Issei from the Occult Research Club president, she announced, handing the document to their teacher. The instructor reviewed it briefly. Hyodo, you're excused early. Apparently, the orc requires your assistance with urgent club activities. A mixture of curiosity and jealousy rippled through the classroom. The Occult Research Club's exclusivity and mysterious activities generated perpetual speculation among the student body. Gathering his belongings, Issei caught Tsubaki's knowing glance as he departed. The hallway outside contained Akino Himahima, whose violet eyes assessed him with undisguised interest. Prompt response, Issei-kun, she greeted with melodious formality. Bushu thought you might appreciate a proper escort given yesterday's excitement. Strategic precaution or continued surveillance? Issei asked, matching her pleasant tone. Akino's laugh held genuine amusement. Perceptive question. Perhaps both. Though I volunteered for escort duty out of personal curiosity. She fell into step beside him as they navigated the hallway. You've made the impression in our little supernatural community. Not every day someone manifests impossible abilities and defeats cursed entities with techniques outside our classification system. Just tryin' to avoid dying dramatically on my second day of school, Issei replied dryly. A reasonable priority, Akino agreed with a smile that contained unexpected warmth. Though I suspect your developments have only begun. Yesterday's power manifestation demonstrated remarkable potential, if somewhat unrefined execution. Muscle memory without complete technical understanding, Issei acknowledged. Quote, fragments of ability without comprehensive framework. Precisely why training would benefit you, Akino noted as they exited the main building. Raw power without control invites disaster, for yourself and others. Something serious flickered beneath her playful demeanor. Power always demands balance, Issei-kun. Something I understand intimately. The personal note in her statement caught Issei's attention. Through Six Eyes' perception, he noted subtle fluctuations in her energy signature. Not purely devil power but something more complex, elements suppressed beneath primary magical identity. Your wings, he observed quietly. They're not standard devil manifestations, are they? Akino's stride faltered slightly, the only indication his comment had struck sensitive territory. Her expression remained composed, though something guarded entered her eyes. My, what interesting observations you make, she deflected smoothly. The Six Eyes reveal uncomfortable truths, it seems. Sorry, Issei apologized, genuinely regretful for causing discomfort. Still learning to filter perceptual information. Sometimes I see things without context for proper interpretation. Akino studied him thoughtfully, seeming to reassess something fundamental about his character. Most would press the advantage of such revelation, leverage uncomfortable knowledge for strategic benefit. I'm not interested in leveraging people's personal struggles, Issei replied honestly. Something shifted in Akino's demeanor, a subtle relaxation of guarded barriers. Unexpected perspective from someone navigating supernatural politics. After brief consideration, she offered, Yes, my wings reflect complicated heritage. Perhaps someday I'll explain further, when trust exists to support such conversation. He reached the old school building in companionable silence, the brief exchange establishing unexpected mutual respect. Inside, Rias waited in the club room alongside Kaneko and Kiba, arranged in wa. Chi appeared to be deliberate tableau, Rias behind her ornate desk, others positioned to project unified group identity. Welcome, Issei, Rias greeted with formal warmth. I trust your day has been uneventful, academically productive, supernaturally informative, he summarized, noting the subtle positioning that left him standing alone facing the cohesive group. Deliberate psychological staging to reinforce power dynamics. Rather than accepting the implied subordinate position, Issei casually claimed an armchair position between visitors' area and inner circle, neither submitting to their arrangement nor challenging it directly. Akino's lips twitched with suppressed amusement as she recognized the subtle counter-move. I'm pleased you accepted our invitation, Rias continued smoothly. After yesterday's revelations, you undoubtedly have questions about Devil Society and the broader supernatural world. Several thousand, Issei confirmed. Though I've made interesting discoveries through independent research as well. Quote, oh, Rias raised an elegant eyebrow. Historical evidence suggesting jujutsu techniques existed in this world's past, Issei explained. Tsubaki shared on my OG records documenting infinity manipulation principles nearly identical to limitless concepts. Something flashed through Rias's expression, competitive awareness that Sona's group had secured meaningful engagement with Issei. Fascinating, she acknowledged diplomatically. Though historical fragments offer limited practical application compared to comprehensive supernatural education. She leaned forward slightly. Devils possess extensive archives documenting all major magical systems throughout history. As allied resource, these would naturally be available to you. The implied counter offer hung in the air. Citri offered theoretical discussion, Grimoire offered comprehensive knowledge repositories. I appreciate the potential resource, Issei responded neutrally. Though I'm still evaluating various aspects of potential alliance. Rias nodded, accepting his measured response without visible disappointment. Understandable. Today's meeting was arranged primarily to provide information rather than secure commitment. She gestured expansively. What would you like to know about Devil Society? The invitation seemed genuine, offering opportunity to better understand the supernatural world he'd suddenly entered. Issei considered his most pressing questions. How is Devil Society structured? Yesterday mentioned peerages and houses, but didn't explain hierarchical frameworks. Excellent starting point, Rias approved, settling into what appeared to be familiar educational mode. Modern Devil Society functions through aristocratic meritocracy built upon ancient bloodlines. Noble houses like Grimoire and Citri maintain territorial holdings both in human world and underworld, with authority determined by bloodline purity, political connections, and individual power. She proceeded to outline the system of evil pieces that allowed devils to reincarnate other species, the rating game competitions that determined social advancement, and the complex political landscape between various factions. Her explanation balanced diplomatic phrasing with reasonable objectivity, acknowledging structural flaws while emphasizing evolutionary improvements in recent centuries. Fallen angels maintain similar hierarchical structure, she concluded, though centered around leadership figures rather than bloodlines. Angels organize through divine bureaucracy under heaven's administrative framework. Various other factions, yokai, valkyries, old gods, maintain independent systems with occasional diplomatic relations to primary powers. And where do cursed spirits fit within this structure? Issei asked. The question visibly surprised Rias. They don't, she admitted. Until yesterday's encounter, such entities were unknown in our classification system. Their existence, outside established supernatural categories, raises concerning questions. Which brings us to important issue, Kaneko interjected, speaking for the first time. Her voice remained monotone, but NSITY lurked beneath expressionless delivery. Unknown entities targeting you specifically represents significant threat. Protection requires coordinated response. Kaneko's assessment is correct, Kiba added. If more of these cursed spirits appear seeking you, proper defensive preparation becomes essential. Issei recognized their comments as transitional pivot toward alliance discussion, high. Lighting vulnerability to emphasize protection benefits. While manipulative, their concern seemed genuine rather than purely tactical. I understand the risks, he acknowledged. Though Alliance Desi, Scions require answering fundamental questions first. He turned back to Rias. What happens if I formally ally with Devil faction but remain human? What obligations and protections would apply without reincarnation? Perceptive question. Rias nodded approvingly. Human allies maintain independence while receiving protection commensurate with their contribution. Contractual specifics would establish mutual expectations, territorial permissions, and knowledge access parameters. She leaned forward slightly. Unlike reincarnation, human alliance preserves existing magical system integrity, potentially important consideration given your unique abilities, which you've already discussed with Sona, Akino noted with mild amusement. We've reviewed theoretical implications, Issei confirmed. Integrating jujutsu techniques with devil energy systems presents unknown variables that warrant careful consideration before permanent decisions. Quite sensible, Rias agreed, though competitive. Awareness flickered briefly across her expression. May I ask what specific alliance benefits you find most compelling from your perspective? The question caught Issei slightly off guard. He'd expect Ted continued promotional pitch rather than inquiry about his priorities. The approach demonstrated greater respect for his agency than anticipated. Knowledge access would be valuable, he answered honestly. Understanding supernatural world mechanics seems essential given my current situation. Training resources would help develop control over emerging abilities. Protection matters, obviously, though I prefer developing self-sufficiency rather than depending solely on external security. Rias nodded thoughtfully. Reasonable priorities that align with potential arrangements. Grimoire Resor, CES include extensive educational materials, training facilities, and defensive capabilities without requiring dependency. Before further discussion could develop, Kaneko suddenly straightened, attention shifting toward the window. Problem, she stated flatly. Everyone tensed as awareness spread, supernatural presence approaching the old school building with deliberate intent. Issei's percepti on shifted automatically to Six Eyes mode, detecting 3 distinct energy signatures unlike devil power. Fallen angels, Rias identified, expression hardening into aristocratic authority. 3 miles. D-level operatives entering Grimoire territory without permission. She stood gracefully. Akino, barrier protocols. Kiba, defensive position. Kaneko, secondary containment preparation. Her peerage oved with practiced efficiency that demonstrated well-established emergency procedures. Akino began tracing complex magical circles while Kiba positioned himself strategically near entrance points. This may prove educational, Rias told Issei with remarkable composure given the developing situation. Observing territorial enforcement demonstrates practical alliance benefits more effectively than theoretical discussion. A knock interrupted further preparation, 3 precise impacts against the club room's door. Diplomatic approach, Akino murmured, completing protective circle before moving to Rias's side with formal precision. Enter, Rias called, aristocratic authority filling the simple word. The door opened to reveal 3 individuals whose human appearance barely concealed their supernatural nature. Through Six Eyes perception, Issei identified suppressed wings and energy signatures consistent with fallen angel classification. The central figure, male, approximately 30 in appearance, wearing expensive business attire, carried himself with administrative confidence rather than combat readiness. Rias Grimoire, he greeted with formal correctness. I am Dominel, Adminis, Tradive Liaison for Grigori operations in Eastern Japan. I apologize for unscheduled territorial entry but request momentary audience regarding matter of mutual concern. Rias maintained perfect composure, neither hostile nor welcoming. Unexpected visits from fallen angel representatives rarely bring positive developments, Dominel-san. Your organization's recent activities in Kuo have already stretched diplomatic courtesy to concerning limits. Hence my presence, Dominel responded smoothly. Recent unauthorized actions by certain operatives have prompted official clarification. His gaze shifted deliberately toward Issei, particularly regarding this young man. Tension sharpened throughout the room. Kiba's hand moved subtly closer to sword manifestation position while Kaneko shifted weight into combat stance. Akino's pleasant expression remained unchanged, though dangerous energy gathered around her hands. Issei Hyodo's status concerns Devil Territory administration exclusively. Rias stated with deliberate emphasis on territorial authority. Grigori interest in specific human residents represents potential treaty violation. Under normal circumstances, absolutely correct. Dominel acknowledged with diplomatic precision. However, unusual energy signatures emanating from Hyodo-san have registered on supernatural monitoring systems across multiple factions. Mai-su. Perrier's request confirmation that the anomaly presents no cross-factional threat. The careful phrasing contained layered messaging, acknowledging Devil territorial rights while establishing legitimat security interest that justified limited intervention. Issei observed the exchange with fascination, recognizing sophisticated political maneuvering beneath surface conversation. Both representatives maintained formal politeness while establishing clear boundaries and implicit threats. The energy signature in question results from awakening sacred gear, Rias replied smoothly, the lie flowing with perfect conviction. Manifesting in unexpected patterns but falling firmly within Devil jurisdiction given territorial agreements. Dominel's expression revealed nothing, though slight energy fluctuations suggested skepticism. Interesting classification. Our analysis suggested fundamental divergence from known sacred gear emissions. Your analysis resources accessed incomplete data, Rias countered without hesitation. Comprehensive evaluation requires specialized equipment available only within Grimoire research facilities. The diplomatic fiction continued, both sides fully aware EY were exchanging calculated falsehoods yet maintaining polite pretense. The fallen angel representative clearly knew Issei's abilities weren't conventional sacred gear manifestation. Rias knew they recognized this fact. Yet direct confrontation remained strategically disadvantageous for both parties. Issei decided to interrupt the performance. My abilities don't conform to sacred gear parameters, he stated clearly. Earning surprised glances from everyone present. Nor fallen angel classifications. They represent previously unidentified system recently awakened through personal circumstances. Rias maintained impressive composure despite his unexpected intervention. Dominel's eyebrows rose fractionally, the equivalent of open shock from his diplomatic demeanor. Refreshing directness, the fallen angel representative noted with cautious appreciation. May I inquire about this, previously unidentified system? You may inquire, Issei replied evenly. Though comprehensive explanation exceeds current discussion parameters. Simplified version. Spatial manipulation capabilities operating through mathematical principles rather than conventional magical frameworks. Strategic Nesty, acknowledging ability category without revealing technical specifics or developmental trajectory. The approach seemed to catch Dominel off guard, diplomatic script disrupted by unexpected transparency. After brief consideration, the representative nodded, appreciated clarity, Hyodo-san. Grigori maintains research division focused on anomalous supernatural phenomena. Should you desire native perspective on your developing abilities, resources could be made available through appropriate diplomatic channels. The recruitment attempt, while expertly delivered, couldn't have been more obvious. Rias's expression cooled several degrees. Any such arrangement would require formal territorial accommodation agreements established through proper channels, she stated with deliberate emphasis on procedural requirements, effectively asserting priority claim without directly rejecting potential cooperation. Naturally, Dominel conceded gracefully. Diplomatic protocols exist precisely for such complex situations. He turned slightly toward Issei. However, individuals ultimately determine their own associations in accordance with Japanese territorial conventions. Grigori respect TS personal agency regarding faction alignment. The subtle reminder that Japan's supernatural territory agreements included individual choice provisions represented strategic counterpoint to Rias's procedural assertion. Complex political chess executed through seemingly simple conversation. Your organization's respect for personal agency seems selectively applied, Issei observed mildly. Cons. Idering yesterday's unsanctioned approach by Operative Rainer, attempting magical compulsion without formal introduction or factional representation. Dominel's expression tightened momentarily, genuine or performance. Impossible to determine. Regrettable incident representing unauthorized action currently under internal review. Appropriate disciplinary measures have been implemented to prevent recurrence. Whether true or diplomatic fiction, the statement established official Grigori position disavowing Rainer's actions, important political groundwork regardless of factual accuracy. Then we appreciate official clarification. Rias concluded smoothly, recognizing implied concession. Territorial administrative protocols will proceed according to established frameworks, with anomalies addressed through proper channels. The diplomatic exchange concluded with formal pleasantries, elaborate verbal dance establishing positions without committing to specific actions. After the fallen angel representatives departed, tension visibly released throughout the room. Well played, Akino commented to no one in particular. Though unexpected directness introduced interesting variables. Indeed, Rias agreed, attention shifting to Issei with complex expression combining approval and strategic reassessment. Your intervention demonstrated surprising political instinct. Controlled info. Our Mashin release established boundaries without revealing vulnerabilities. Seemed more productive than pretending everyone didn't know what everyone knew, Issei explained with shrug. Artificial IG. Ignorance rarely advances actual understanding. Rias laughed. Genuine amusement breaking through aristocratic composure. Refreshingly pragmatic perspective. Though conventional diplomatic engagement typically prioritizes strategic positioning over factual clarity. Politics, Kaneko summarized dismissively. Necessary complexity, Hiba countered with good-natured disagreement. Supernatural coexistence requires elaborate frameworks to prevent constant conflict. Which brings us back to alliance considerations, Rias noted, smoothly returning to previous discussion. Today's interaction demonstrates practical reality of supernatural politics affecting your situation regardless of personal preference. Without formal association, various factions will continue independent recruitment efforts with escalating incentives. Escalating pressure tactics, you mean, Issei translated. Unfortunately accurate assessment, Rias acknowledged without defensiveness. Supernatural world operates through power balancing rather than altruistic consideration. Unaligned individuals with significant capabilities rarely maintain independence without considerable personal strength or factional protection. The offer remains open, Akino added more gently. Alliance provides mutual benefits without requiring fundamental identity change. Your abilities remain yours, simply supported by additional resources and protection. Issei considered their position with six eyes clarity, seeing beyond words to underlying motivations. Genuine interest in his well-being existed alongside strategic desire. To secure unique capabilities for Devil faction. Not malicious manipulation but natural combination of personal concern and political calculation. I appreciate the honest assessment, he responded finally. And recognize legitimate benefits in formal association. He met Rias's gaze directly. I accept preliminary alliance with Grimoire faction, with specific understanding that arrangement remains non-exclusive regarding potential Onmyoji resources and maintains human status until further developments clarify appropriate long-term arrangements. Relief and satisfaction spread across Rias's expression. Well-structured acceptance. Preliminary alliance under specified conditions can be formalized immediately through basic contract establishment. Though perhaps we should address the incoming problem first. Akino interjected with deceptive casualness, gesturing toward the window. Everyone's attention shifted to follow her indication. Through normal perception, nothing unusual appeared outside the old-school building. Through Six Eyes activation, however, Issei detected familiar distortion in reality's fabric, similar to yesterday's entity but with concerning differences in density and pattern complexity. Another cursed spirit, he identified grimly, stronger than yesterday's manifestation, appears to be searching rather than feeding. Searching for what? Kiba asked, already moving toward combat position. Most likely me, Issei acknowledged, studying the entity's movement pattern with analytical detachment that belied growing concern. Yesterday's encounter sudden, Lee seemed like fortuitous warm-up exercise compared to the approaching threat. Classification parameters. Rias requested with immediate shift to tactical focus. Issei accessed fragmentary knowledge from Gojo's memories. Assessing the entity through Six Eyes perception. Semi-grade 1 classification in Jujutsu terminology. Substantially more dangerous than yesterday's manifestation. Demonstrate rudimentary intelligence rather than purely instinctual behavior. Threat assessment. Kaneko asked practically. Significant, Issei admitted. Conventional attacks will have minimal effect without conceptual reinforcement. Physical manifestation represents projection rather than vulnerable form. Its actual existence operates across dimensional boundary that conventional weapons can't effectively engage. Your abilities affected yesterday's entity, Akeno noted. Similar approach viable. Theoretically, Issei confirmed with less confidence than he would have preferred. Though this specimen demonstrates advanced defensive capabilities that will complicate engagement. Then we adapt, Rias decided firmly. Coordinated response maximizing complementary capabilities. Issei, can you identify vulnerable aspects through your specialized perception? The question demonstrated practical leadership, immediately focusing on solution development rather than problem magnification. Issei activated full six eyes perception, analyzing the cursed spirit's structure with mathematical precision. Core manifestation anchors to this reality through conceptual binding points, he identified after careful observation. 7 distinct nexus locations distributed asymmetrically throughout its form. Disrupting these simultaneously would collapse its manifestation capacity temporarily. 7 targets, 5 combatants. Hiba calculated immediately. Disadvantageous distribution. Unless 2 targets can be neutralized simultaneously, Akeno countered, violet eyes gleaming with tactical calculation. Lightning strike with sufficient precision could potentially address multiple binding points concurrently. While spatial manipulation restricts movement patterns, Issei added, STR. ATEGY forming through collaborative development. I can't maintain complete limitless barrier yet, but targeted application at critical junctures would create momentary vulnerability. Rias nodded, absorbing tactical suggestions with impressive processing speed. Coordinated engagement then. Hiba, initial distraction approach from western vector. Kaneko, reinforcement from opposing angle to divide attention. Akeno, aerial position for optimal strike visibility. I'll prepare power of destruction for core disruption once binding points destabilize. The peerage moved with practiced efficiency. That spoke to extensive combat experience together. Despite his newcomer status, they integrated his input without hesitation, adaptive response demonstrating genuine tactical flexibility. What's my position? Issei asked, already calculating spatial coordinates for optimal technique application. Observation and targeted support initially, Rias directed. Your perception provides critical intelligence. Preserve that capability rather than engaging directly until necessary. When Akeno signals, apply spatial manipulation to whatever targets remain after initial strike. The strategy made practical sense, leveraging his unique perception while minimizing exposure given his still developing control. As they moved into position, exiting the building through strategic access points, Issei ticked something about Rias's leadership style. She balanced authoritative direction with adaptive incorporation of individual capabilities, neither micromanaging nor abandoning coordination. Outside, twilight painted the academy grounds with lengthening shadows as students departed through main gates, oblivious to supernatural threat manifesting near old school building. The cursed spirit moved with deliberate purpose through reality's boundary layer, visible to Issei's perception but effectively invisible to conventional sight. Its form resembled vaguely humanoid anatomy distorted through impossible angles. Composed of concentrated negativity with mask-like face featuring intricate patterns unlike yesterday's simpler entity. As it searched, dimensional rifts momentarily appeared around its movement path. Brief windows into different reality where similar creatures moved through blasted landscape. It's creating temporary connections between worlds, Issei realized with growing concern. Using dimensional thinning to maintain manifestation stability. Which means, Rias asked from position behind decorative stonework. Destroying this one might not prevent others from following same pathway, Issei explained grimly. It's establishing navigation markers between realities. Immediate threat first, dimensional theory later, Kaneko stated practically, readying herself for engagement. Hiba initiated contact as planned, materializing from concealment with blinding speed. His sword, glowing with concentrated devil energy, struck with precision toward nearest binding point Issei had identified. The cursed spirit reacted with disturbing intelligence, shifting dimensional phase to allow the blade to pass through apparently solid form without impact. Physical attacks phasing through, Hiba reported, adjusting position with acrobatic grace as the entity countered with sweeping appendage. Kaneko engaged from opposite direction as planned, her small form belying tremendous physical power. Unlike Kiba's precision strike, she delivered devastating impact to broader area, force dispersing through the entity's form and momentarily disrupting its dimensional phasing. Moss S energy differential creates vulnerability window, Issei called out, Six Eyes tracking the momentary pattern destabilization. 3-second opportunity after major kinetic impact. Akeno capitalized immediately, lightning arcing from her elevated position with surgical precision. The electrical discharge, more concentrated than natural lightning and infused with devil energy, struck through tempo. Rare vulnerability to impact 3 binding points simultaneously. The cursed spirit shrieked, reality-distorting sound that caused physical discomfort through dimensional frequency rather than conventional acoustics. Its form convulsed, dimensional phasing fluctuating erratically as damaged binding points struggled to maintain manifestation integrity. 4 remaining nexus points, Issei reported. Tracking shifting vulnerability patterns, reconfiguring to compensate for damage. Can you restrict spatial movement around remaining points? Rias asked, crimson energy gathering around her hands as she prepared primary attack. Issei reached for Limitless technique, concentrating on precise application rather than broader barrier generation. Mathematical principles flowed through his consciousness. Six Eyes calculating exact coordinates where space itself could be manipulated to maximum effect. 3 seconds on my mark, he confirmed, hands extending toward the distorted entity. Infinity restriction deploying. Now. Around 4 specific coordinates within the cursed spirit's form, space itself distorted, not complete barriers but localized infinity fields that prevented specific movement patterns. The entity struggled against these spatial anomalies, unable to reconfigure binding points through suddenly infinite distance within its own structure. Target locked, Rias announced with deadly precision. The crimson energy surrounding her hands condensed into focused beam that struck the cursed spirit's central mass. Unlike conventional attacks, the power of destruction didn't damage through impact or energy transfer but through fundamental unraveling of existence itself. The cursed spirit's form began disintegrating where the crimson energy contacted, reality dissolute. Ion spreading outward through its structure like cosmic rust. It thrashed violently, dimensional distortions multiplying around its deteriorating form as it attempted emergency countermeasures. Something's wrong, Issei warned. Six Eyes detecting alarming pattern developing within the dissolution process. It's converting destruction energy into dimensional rift expansion. The warning came moments before visible manifestation. Reality tearing open around the cursed spirit's dissolving form, creating window into blasted landscape Issei had glimpsed earlier. Through this expanding aperture, multiple entities similar to their current opponent became visible, attention focusing on the dimensional boundary with predatory awareness. It's calling reinforcements. Kiba identified, adjusting position to guard approach vectors. Rift requires anchor point stabilization, Issei analyzed rapidly, accessing fragmented knowledge about dimensional boundaries from Gojo's memories. If we destroy remaining binding points simultaneously, both entity and rift collapse together. Remaining points keep shifting position, Akeno observed from aerial vantage, lightning gathering around her once more. Coordinated targeting increasingly difficult. Issei made rapid calculation, options narrowing as the dimensional rift expanded further. Conventional coordinated attacks wouldn't achieve Nises. Airy simultaneous disruption given the entity's adaptive defenses. Alternative approach required. I need direct contact, he decided, moving from observation position despite Rias's concerned expression. Contemporarily freeze binding points through direct spatial manipulation, creating stationary targets for combined strike. Too dangerous, Rias countered immediately. Your control remains developmental. Direct engagement at this stage. No time for safer alternatives, Issei interrupted with apologetic determination. Rift expansion accelerating exponentially. 30 seconds maximum E4 additional entities transition through. The practical assessment silenced further objections. Rias nodded sharply, shifting tactical approach without hesitation. Kiba, Kaneko, defensive perimeter. Akeno, prepare maximum precision strike on my signal. Issei, her turquoise eyes met his with complex emotion combining concern and respect, execute your approach, but withdraw immediately after binding point stabilization. Issei moved toward the writhing cursed spirit, accessing deeper levels of limitless technique than previously attempted. Calculating infinity parameters through Six Eyes perception, he established precise mathematical framework for the approaching technique. Blue, he whispered, naming the technique as knowledge crystallized from fragmented memories. Around his advancing form, blue energy manifestation became visible even to normal perception, reality itself responding to fundamental manipulation of spatial principles. The cursed spirit sensed approaching threat, abandoning rift expansion to focus defensive measures against this new danger. It struck with dimensional distortion, attack designed to shred physical form through spatial displacement. The Issei LT encountered Issei's developing blue technique and stopped, unable to traverse suddenly infinite distance despite appearing mere centimeters from target. Infinity between us, Issei stated, ECH. On words from Gojo's memories as he closed distance with the entity. Reaching the cursed spirit's perimeter, he extended both hands, fingers splayed as mathematical calculations flowed through his consciousness at impossible speed. Around the 4 remaining binding points, space itself crystallized, not infinite expansion but paradoxical stasis, points that should move freely suddenly locked in dimensional stasis. Now, he called, maintaining concentration despite escalating strain on his developing capabilities. Rias and Akeno responded with perfect synchronization, Crimson Destruction B.M. and Lightning Strike converging on precisely located targets. The combined attack struck with catastrophic effect, remaining binding points disintegrating under coordinated assault. The cursed spirit's existence collapsed inward, dimensional integrity failing as anchor points dissolved simultaneously. The developing rift followed milliseconds later, reality snapping back into proper alignment as connection between worlds severed. Silence fell across the battlefield, disrupted only by Issei's labored breathing as he struggled to maintain consciousness. The technique had demanded far more energy and precision than his current development comfortably supported. Impressive execution, Akeno commented, landing gracefully beside him as Midnight Wings retracted. Though perhaps exceeding current capability parameters. Sometimes necessity overrides caution, Issei managed between controlled breaths, fighting against encroaching exhaustion. A perspective I understand intimately, she replied with unexpected warmth, steadying him with casual touch that conveyed both practical support and personal acknowledgement. Rias approached with regal concern, assessing aftermath with practiced efficiency. The entity is completely destroyed. No residual manifestation potential, completely neutralized, Issei confirmed after brief Six Eyes confirmation scan. Though dimensional thinning remains in affected area, potential vulnerability for future incursions, which can be addressed through proper barrier reinforcement, Rias noted, practical focus shifting immediately to solution development. Collaborative approach between devil territorial protections and your specialized knowledge about these entities. The subtle emphasis on collaboration underscored alliance benefits, PR. Practical demonstration rather than theoretical discussion. Second entity within 24 hours suggests accelerating pattern, Kiba observed with professional concern. Increasing strength progress. Scion implies strategic targeting rather than random manifestation. They're drawn to my energy signature, Issei acknowledged grimly. Specifically seeking Limitless and Six Eyes capabilities for reasons I don't fully understand yet. Fragments from Gojo's memories suggest these entities considered him primary threat in original timeline. And now transfer that assessment to you as his reincarnation, Rias concluded. Implications spreading across her expression. Which makes formalized alliance arrangements increasingly urgent from security perspective. Issei couldn't disagree with her assessment. 2 dangerous encounters in consecutive days established clear threat pattern that would likely continue escalating. While independence maintained certain advantages, practical security cons. Iterations increasingly outweighed theoretical concerns about premature commitment. The preliminary alliance we discussed, he decided, straightening despite lingering exhaustion. I'm prepared to formalize those arrangements immediately, with specified conditions regarding continued human status and non-exclusive knowledge access. Relief and satisfaction mingled in Rias's expression, genuine concern for his safety alongside strategic satisfaction at securing valuable alliance. We'll establish proper contractual parameters back at club headquarters. Basic protective measures can be implemented immediately. with more comprehensive arrangements following detailed discussion. As they returned to the old school building, Issei found himself walking alongside Akeno, whose observant gaze contained questions beyond tactical assessment. Your techniques, she began with uncharacteristic hesitation. They operate through mathematical principles rather than conventional energy manipulation, correct? Essentially, Issei confirmed, conceptual application of infinity within finite space, requiring precise calculation capabilities provided by Six Eyes perception. Yet they contain unmistakable beauty. Akeno noted thoughtfully, mathematical precision creating almost artistic manipulation of fundamental reality. Something vulnerable flickered beneath her composed exterior. I find myself curious about perspective that perceives worlds so differently yet produces such elegant results. The comment surprised Issei. Not tactical assessment or strategic evaluation but genuine appreciation for philosophical underpinnings of his developing abilities. Beauty in mathematical certainty, he acknowledged. Infinity itself represents concept beyond conventional understanding yet expressible through precise formulation. Quote, perhaps someday you might demonstrate the perspective directly, Akeno suggested with subtle undertone that balanced intellectual curiosity with personal interest. Six Eyes perception must reveal fascinating aspects of reality beyond conventional awareness. The request contained layers, professional interest in unique capabilities alongside personal connection transcending strategic considerations. I'd like that, Issei replied honestly, finding unexpected comfort in conversation that acknowledged both supernatural complexity and human connection beneath factional positioning. Inside the club room, Rias efficiently prepared contractual documentation for preliminary alliance formalization. The process involved elaborate magical circle generation, document preparation combining arcane symbols with conventional legal terminology, and precise positioning of participants within ritualized space. Basic alliance contract, she explained, NTING parchment covered with elegant script interwoven with subtle magical components. Establishes mutual protection parameters, knowledge access provisions, territorial permissions, and confidential ITY requirements without altering fundamental nature or imposing peerage obligations. Issei reviewed the document carefully, Six Eyes perception analyzing both conventional content and magical binding elements with equal precision. The arrangement appeared functionally as described, protection and resource access in exchange for collaborative assistance against mutual threats, without compromising human status or imposing devil-specific obligations. Signing requires blood component, Rias added, producing ornate silver knife. Magical binding elements activate through genetic marker integration. The process felt appropriately ceremonial, ancient practices adapted for modern context while maintaining traditional elements that activated necessary magical frameworks. Issei signed with steady hand, watching as crimson droplet integrated with parchment's mystical properties, script momentarily glowing before settling into permanent configuration. Alliance formalized, Rias confirmed with satisfied nod. Welcome to Grimoire Association, Issei Hyodo, human practitioner of Limitless technique and bearer of Six Eyes. The formal acknowledgement created subtle shift in atmosphere, transition from recruitment negotiation to collaborative partnership. Even Kaniko's habitually expressionless demeanor softened fractionally, territorial acceptance extending to include Issei within protected parameters. Practical benefits include immediate defensive enhancements, Akeno explained, producing small crimson crystal from ornate box. This communication talisman allows instant alert transmission should threats manifest. Protection circle will be established around your residence tonight, with additional defensive measures implemented progressively. Knowledge access begins immediately as well, Rias added, gesturing toward impressive bookcase dominating one wall. Archives contain extensively documented information about supernatural world structure, major factions, historical conflicts, and magical system classification. Materials can be borrowed with appropriate documentation procedure. And training facilities, Issei inquired, recognizing development necessity given escalating threats. Available on multiple properties, Kiba confirmed, including specialized reinforced chambers designed for high-energy technique development with containment parameters preventing collateral effects. The practical resources represented significant advantage over attempting independent development, infrastructure developed over centuries specifically supporting supernatural capability advancement. There's also matter of your academic cover, Rias noted with practical attention to mundane details. Official Occult Research Club membership provides established explanation for time spent on supernatural activities, reducing uncomfortable questions from ordinary students or faculty. Though maintaining appropriate social connections within human framework remains advisable, Akino suggested thoughtfully. Complete withdrawal from established relationships creates unnecessary attention. Balance between worlds typically proves more sustainable than absolute separation. The advice demonstrated surprising consideration for human identity maintenance rather than encouraging complete immersion in supernatural society, perhaps reflecting Rias's own experiences navigating between worlds. As evening deepened outside, practical discussion continued: alliance parameters, defensive considerations, training schedules, information access procedures, building functional framework for this new arrangement. Throughout conversation, Issei noted subtle relationship dynamics within established peerage. Rias's leadership balanced aristocratic authority with genuine consideration. Akino's supportive role containing both formal deference and occasional gentle guidance. Kiba's knightly dedication founded in personal loyalty rather than mere obligation. Kaniko's minimalist communication conveying complex meaning through subtle expression shifts. These observations revealed peerage structure exceeding simple hierarchical arrangement, functioning more as family unit than mere organizational framework. Whether this reflected Grimoire House characteristics specifically or broader Devil social patterns remained unclear, but the dynamics suggested potential for meaningful connection beyond purely transactional alliance. When discussion concluded and departure arrangements began, Rias approached Issei with expression suggesting additional consideration beyond formalized parameters. One final matter, she began with uncharacteristic hesitation. While contractual arrangements address practical considerations, there's psychological aspect worth addressing. Her turquoise eyes met his directly. Navigating between memories and identities, Issei Hyodo and Gojo Satoru, likely creates internal complexity beyond tactical implications. The observation demonstrated surprising empathetic awareness beyond strategic calculation. It's challenging, Issei admitted, appreciating acknowledgement of personal dimension beneath supernatural developments. Accessing abilities without losing core identity presents ongoing balance. Gojo's memories contain crucial knowledge, but full integration risks personality subsumption. Rias nodded thoughtfully. Devil Society contains extensive experience with identity transition through reincarnation process. While your situation differs significantly, certain psychological support mechanisms might prove adaptable to your circumstances. Memory compartmentalization techniques, Akino elaborated, joining conversation with gentle recognition of sensitive topic. Methods allowing controlled access to specific knowledge. E-segments without complete consciousness integration. I've noticed dreams provide more comprehensive access than conscious attempts, Issei acknowledged. As if subconscious creates safer interface for memory transfer. Building upon that natural mechanism might prove effective approach, Rias suggested. Grimoire archives contain several treatises on consciousness segmentation that could provide theoretical framework for controlled integration method. The offer represented something beyond contractual obligation, genuine attempt to address personal welfare alongside practical capability development. Such consideration suggested relationship potential transcending mere strategic alliance. I would appreciate access to those resources, Issei acknowledged sincerely. As evening concluded and departure arrangements proceeded, Akino approached with communication talisman and brief instructions for emergency activation. Her fingers brushed his during transfer, contact lasting for only longer than functionally necessary. Should you experience unusual memory manifestations or require assistance with integration techniques, she offered with subtle warmth beneath professional demeanor. Please don't hesitate to contact me directly. Academic understanding sometimes benefits from practical support during implementation. The invitation balanced professional assistance with personal availability, creating space for relationship development within appropriate boundaries. Thank you, Issei replied, genuine appreciation coloring simple acknowledgement. For the offer and everything today. Something shifted in Akino's violet eyes, recognition of authentic connection rather than merely strategic interaction. Until tomorrow then, she concluded with smile containing warmth beyond formal courtesy. Kiba accompanied Issei home as previous evening, though tonight's escort included detailed explanation of defensive barrier implementation scheduled for residents' protection. The technical information provided practical distraction from deeper considerations regarding identity integration and evolving relationships. Barrier anchors require strategic positioning around property perimeter, Kiba explained as they approached Issei's neighborhood. Once established, they create detection boundary alerting us to supernatural intrusion attempts while deflecting minor incursions automatically. Similar to temple boundaries I sensed yesterday, Issei noted, connecting concepts across magical systems. Though operating through different principles, Kiba acknowledged. Devil territorial magic emphasizes ownership authority rather than purification energy typical in shrine protection systems. Conceptual differences with practical similarities, Issei observed. Makes me wonder how many supernatural systems developed similar solutions through different methodological approaches. Philosophical question worthy of extended discussion, Kiba noted with expected scholarly interest beneath knightly exterior. Perhaps when immediate security concerns stabilize. They reached Issei's home without incident, seemingly ordinary residents now recognized as potential supernatural target requiring specialized protection. Before departing, Kiba provided final communication talisman with activation instructions and confirmation of overnight barrier implementation schedule. Tomorrow morning, he concluded with formal courtesy that nonetheless contained genuine camaraderie. Same arrangement as today, appreciated, Issei confirmed, recognizing practical security necessity alongside developing friendship potential beneath professional arrangement. Inside, Issei navigated ordinary family dinner conversation with surreal awareness of dimensional disconnect between mundane discussion and supernatural reality he now inhabited. His parents' concerns about academic performance and social development seemed simultaneously important yet strangely distant. And compared to cursed spirit incursions and dimensional rifts. Later, in bedroom privacy, Issei attempted meditation technique remembered from Gojo's training routines. The process came more naturally than previous attempts, suggesting accelerating memory integration following recent ability activations. Within meditative state, conceptual space materialized similarly to previous manifestation. Gojo's form appeared with characteristic casual posture, white hair and dark glasses precisely matching memory fragments. Back so soon, the manifestation commented with amused confidence. Developing faster than anticipated, probably response to active threat engagement. Nothing accelerates growth like survival necessity. 2 cursed spirit attacks in consecutive days suggests coordinated targeting, Issei observed. Addressing practical concerns first. Second entity demonstrated strategic intelligence and attempted reinforcement summoning through dimensional rift. Expected progression, Gojo acknowledged without surprise. Your awakening abilities create resonance across dimensional boundaries. Entities that opposed me naturally respond to similar energy signature appearing in adjacent reality. How do I prevent further incursions? You don't, Gojo replied with characteristic directness. At least not immediately. Dimensional boundaries have already thinned. Cursed energy has established transfer pathway. Proper countermeasure requires comprehensive barrier technique development beyond your current capability level. Then what's immediate solution? Accelerated development, Gojo stated simply. Particularly focusing on limitless technique refinement and 6-eyes perception enhancement. Blue, red, and purple applications provide effective countermeasures again. Saint cursed spirits regardless of classification level. I used blue today, Issei noted. Partially effective but exhausting beyond sustainable application. Efficiency improves with practice, Gojo assured with confident dismissal of current limitations. Theoretical understanding must balance with practical application for proper development. Your alliance with these devils provides unexpected advantage. Multiple targets for technique refinement without fatality concerns. You want me to use devil allies as training dummies? Issei asked incredulously. Gojo laughed. Genuine amusement rather than dismissal. Their regenerative capabilities and supernatural durability make them ideal practice partners, particularly for controlled spatial manipulation exercises. Besides, collaborative training benefits their understanding of your capabilities while providing you necessary application experience. The practical suggestion demonstrated unexpected strategic consideration beyond Gojo's remembered arrogant dismissal of others' utility. Perhaps memory integration included personality evolution rather than mere knowledge transfer. There's also matter of identity integration, Issei raised. Addressing personal concern beneath tactical considerations. Accessing your memories and abilities without losing myself entirely. Something softened in Gojo's typically confident demeanor. Understandable concern. For what it's worth, complete subsumption isn't happening, otherwise our conversation would be unnecessary monologue rather than dialogue between distinct perspectives. But continued integration risks personality merging beyond separation capability, Issei persisted. I need balance method maintaining access without identity dissolution. Interesting problem, Gojo acknowledged. Considering with uncharacteristic seriousness. Jujutsu techniques traditionally include mental partition construction for curse contamination prevention. Similar principles might apply to memory compartmentalization while maintaining technique access. The Devil Archives mentioned consciousness segmentation methods, Issei noted. Potentially adaptable to our situation. Multi-system approach, Gojo nodded approvingly. Creative adaptation typical of successful integration rather than conflicted opposition. Suggests natural compatibility between our cognitive frameworks. Observation provided unexpected reassurance. Perhaps their distinct identities could coexist through complementary integration rather than competitive override. The manifestation began fading as meditation depth fluctuated. Connection weakening with concentration variance. One final consideration, Gojo added as his form dissipated. Those females with obvious interest, quite different from Jujutsu political landscape. Definitely improvement over my original circumstances. The observation contained distinctly Gojo-specific humor alongside surprisingly astute relationship awareness before the connection dissolved completely. Returning Issei to normal consciousness. Opening his eyes, Issei considered the manifestation's parting comment with mixed amusement and consideration. His percept, ion of interpersonal dynamics had indeed shifted since abilities began awakening, both Akeno and Tsubaki demonstrating interest transcending mere supernatural assessment, while Rias's engagement blank. Political calculation with genuine personal consideration. These developing connections represented unexpected dimension beyond power development and supernatural politics, human element remaining vital despite increasingly extraordinary circumstances. As night deepened outside, Issei sensed subtle energies shift around house perimeter, devil barrier implementation proceeding as scheduled. The protective measures represented tangible alliance benefit, practical security allowing necessary focus on ability development and identity integration. Tomorrow would bring training opportunities, knowledge access, and continued relationship development within new alliance framework. Whether these developments would proceed quickly enough to counter escalating cursed spirit incursions remained uncertain. But foundation had been established for meaningful progression. Between Issei Hyodo and Gojo Satoru, between human and Jujutsu sorcerer, between Devil Alliance and independent development, infinity existed not as separation but as endless possibility within finite existence. Chapter 2 and Chapter 3, Convergent Domains. Dawn painted Kuo town in washed-out watercolors, pearl gray sky BL. Eating into lavender horizon as the sleeping world stirred reluctantly awake. Issei stood atop his family's modest home, balanced on roof tiles still slick with morning dew, eyes closed in perfect concentration. Around the property perimeter, crimson light pulsed subtly where devil barriers had been installed overnight, magical protection now intertwining with the ordinary suburban landscape. Through six eyes perception, Issei examined these new defenses with mathematical precision. The Grimoire barrier utilized three-dimensional arcane geometries that established proprietary claim over design. TED space, fundamentally different from the infinity principle underlying his own developing techniques. Where Limitless created conceptual division through infinite expansion of finite distance, devil barriers operated through magical ownership designation enforced by power hierarchies. Different approaches to similar problems, he murmured, cataloging the barrier's structural formulation for future reference. A sound below drew his attention, his mother stepping into the backyard with laundry basket, completely unaware of her son's rooftop meditation or the supernatural protections now surrounding their home. The mundane and extraordinary existing in parallel, separated only by perceptual limitations. Issei descended with practiced agility that would have been impossible for him a week ago. Landing silently on the dewy grass. Physical capabilities had enhanced alongside awakening powers, muscle memory from Gojo's lifetime gradually integrating with his current form. Not supernatural strength like Kaniko's devil-enhanced capabilities, but perfect kinesthetic control utilizing ordinary human potential to maximum efficiency. Breakfast proceeded with ordinary family conversation, his parents discussing household finances and neighborhood gossip while Issei navigated the surreal disconnect between their reality and his expanding awareness. When doorbell chimed at precisely 7:30, he knew without checking that Kiba had arrived for escort duty. "Your friend is so punctual," his mother commented approvingly. "Such a good influence." If she only knew the good influence was a devil swordsman assigned as supernatural bodyguard. Outside, Kiba waited with characteristic composed demeanor. "Good morning," he greeted with polite formality that nonetheless contained developing camaraderie. "Sleep well." "Relatively," Issei confirmed, though memory integration continues during dream states. Increasingly comprehensive technical knowledge transferring alongside personal history fragments. Useful for ability development, Kiba noted practically as they began walking. Though potentially disorienting from identity perspective. Understatement, Issei agreed dryly. Integrating 17-year-old Japanese high school student with centuries-old jujutsu sorcerer creates interesting psychological complexities. Kiba's eyebrows rose slightly. Centuries. Your previous incarnation lived that long. Apparently, Issei confirmed, surprised by his own certainty regarding information he couldn't consciously remember accessing. Six Eyes users typically maintain extant dead lifespan through innate energy efficiency and enhanced cellular regeneration. Not immortality, but significant longevity compared to ordinary humans. Fascinating, Kiba commented with genuine interest. The Alliance archives will certainly want documentation of such details, if you're comfortable sharing. They approached the temple where Issei had twice encountered the enigmatic groundskeeper. Today the entrance stood empty. Worn stone steps swept clean but unoccupied. As they passed, however, Issei noticed small object placed precisely at property boundary, palm-sized stone tablet ends. Cribbed with intricate geometric pattern that resonated with something in his subconscious. Without conscious decision, his hand reached for the tablet. Careful, Kiba warned, swordsman's instincts immediately alert to potential threat. Issei paused, reassessing. Not dangerous, he determined after careful inspection through Six Eyes perception. Invitation, essentially. The barrier formula scribed connects to Jujutsu network rather than attempting influence. He collected the stone, which felt unexpectedly warm against his palm. The sensation triggered cascade of technical knowledge, barrier construction principles, channeling formulations, domain theory fundamentals, rising from Gojo's memories into conscious accessibility. Interesting educational approach, Issei noted, pocketing the tablet as they resumed walking. Targeted memory activation through resonant trigger object. The groundskeeper seems unusually knowledgeable about your specific condition, Kiba observed with professional caution. Worth investigating his actual identity and affiliations. Agreed, Issei acknowledged, though his intentions appear constructive rather than threatening thus far. Approaching school grounds, their conversation shifted to training logistics. Rias had arranged afternoon session at specialized Grimori facility accessible through teleportation circle. As allied human rather than peerage member, Issei required escort for transportation system access, an administrative detail reflecting his unusual status within Devil hierarchy. The training facility includes reinforced chambers designed for high-energy technique development, Kiba explained as they crossed the main courtyard. Originally constructed for Rias's power of destruction practice during early manifestatio. End stages when control variables remained unpredictable. Appropriate for limitless technique refinement, Issei acknowledged, appreciating practical infrastructure support the Alliance provided. Near the academic building entrance, they encountered Tsubaki organizing documents with efficient precision while students flowed around her with respectful deference. Her composed demeanor shifted subtly upon noticing Issei, professional mask maintaining while eyes conveyed recognition beyond ordinary acknowledgement. Hyodo-kun, she greeted with formal correctness. I trust you're well this morning. No unusual developments overnight, Quote, "The carefully worded inquiry balanced public propriety with supernatural awareness. Peaceful evening," Issei confirmed, matching her discreet communication style. Though continued academic interest in yesterday's theoretical discussion remains, perhaps lunch continuation would prove productive, Tsubaki suggested, adjusting her glasses with characteristic precision. "Additional research materials have become available that might interest you." "I'd appreciate that," Issei agreed, genuine intellectual curiosity complementing strategic knowledge acquisition priorities. As they entered the building, Kiba commented quietly, "Maintaining connections with multiple information sources demonstrates practical approach. Though Bushu might prefer exclusive consultation arrangement." "Devil politics," Issei summarized with growing understanding of supernatural factional dynamics. "Strategic competition beneath diplomatic courtesy." "Precisely," Kiba confirmed with approving nod. "Your adaptation to supernatural social frameworks proceeds remarkably quickly." They separated at intersection leading to different class sections, Kiba reminding Issei of afternoon training arrangements before departing with casual grace that nonetheless conveyed constant situational awareness. Classroom 2B already contained scattered students when Issei arrived, including his former partners in perversion looking uncharacteristically serious. Matsuda and Motohama approached with determined expressions suggesting intervention planning rather than usual banter. "Emergency Perverts Council meeting," Matsuda declared dramatically. "Your disturbing behavioral changes require immediate friendship response. Walking to school with Kiba instead of us," Motohama enumerated with scientific precision. "Meaningful conversations with multiple female students. Reduced breast observation frequency. 0 peeping attempts in 3 days. Complete personality transformation." Their genuine concern beneath comedic presentation reminded Issei of friendship bonds predating supernatural complications. Despite awakening abilities and alliance responsibilities, these connections represented important aspects of his identity worth preserving. "I appreciate the concern," he acknowledged sincerely. "Life's gotten complicated lately, but I'm still me, just Figu. Ring some things out that have shifted priorities temporarily." "Temporarily." Matsuda seized the qualifier with desperate hope. "So you're saying our perverted brotherhood might someday reunite in glorious celebration of the female form?" Quote, Issei laughed, genuine amusement untainted by Gojo's sometimes cynical perspective. "Let's just say I'm developing more nuanced appreciation rather than abandoning core principles entirely." This careful compromise satisfied his friends sufficiently to reduce intervention urgency without requiring detailed explanation of supernatural developments. Their conversation shifted to upcoming school events with almost normal rhythm, providing welcome connection to ordinary teenage experience alongside extraordinary awakening. Morning classes proceeded with a real normality, teachers discussing academic concepts that seemed simultaneously important yet trivially limited compared to metaphysical principles Issei now accessed through expanding consciousness. During mathematics, conventional calculus discussion triggered spontaneous understanding of advanced dimensional equations underlying limitless technique variations, knowledge flowing from subconscious without deliberate recall attempt. These memory integration episodes occurred with increasing frequency throughout morning. Biology lecture activating knowledge about cursed energy interaction with cellular systems. Literature discussion connecting narrative structure to domain expansion conceptual frameworks. History timeline triggering fragments of Gojo's personal experiences across corresponding periods. The disorienting aspect wasn't information acquisition itself but emotional context accompanying certain memories, confidence bordering on arrogance, detached amusement regarding human limitations. Calculated indifference toward conventional morality in certain circumstances. Not overwhelming his core personality but introducing perspective variations that occasionally felt foreign to Issei's fundamental character. When lunch period arrived, he extricated himself from Matsuda and Motohama with diplomatic excuse about student council consultation. The partial truth maintained friendship without unnecessary deception, balancing ordinary social connections with supernatural involvement. The student council room contained only Tsubaki when Issei arrived, her efficient preparati. Evident in organized research materials arranged precisely across central table. Unlike yesterday's theoretical overview, today's documents appeared more specifically targeted, historical texts containing barrier formulations. mathematical treatises on spatial distortion principles, and what appeared to be family grimoire containing onmyoji techniques. I've been researching integration possibilities between different magical systems, Tsubaki explained without preamble, scholarly focus immediately evident. Particularly convergence potential between jujutsu techniques, your awakening and established supernatural frameworks. Ambitious research direction, Issei noted, settling opposite her. Magical systems typically maintain fundamental incompatibilities preventing direct integration. Typically, Tsubaki agreed, adjusting her glasses with precise gesture that Issei now recognized as concentration indicator rather than mere physical adjustment. However, your unique circumstance, NCE, awakening abilities from different reality framework within this world, creates unprecedented opportunity for examining underlying principles that might transcend system-specific limitations. Her analytical perspective impressed Issei, not merely cataloging observable phenomena but seeking fundamental principles connecting seemingly disparate magical frameworks. This approach demonstrated larly depth beyond administrative efficiency her student council position might suggest. You've considered convergent domain theory, he observed, noting particular text among her research materials. Tsubaki's eyes widened fractionally, genuine surprise breaking through composed demeanor. You recognize 15th century esoteric mathematical treatise from partial spine visibility. Remarkable perceptual capabilities indeed. Six Eyes adaptation extending beyond cursed energy perception, Issei explained, surprising himself with information he hadn't consciously processed before articulation. Developing application recognizes conceptually significant patterns across various information mediums. Fascinating developmental trajectory, Tsubaki murmured, making precise notes in elegant handwriting. Suggests Six Eyes fundamentally alters perception processing rather than merely enhancing existing capabilities. Their discussion deepened as Tsubaki shared specific research findings. Historical documentation of barrier techniques sharing mathematical principles with Limitless despite originating within different magical traditions, theoretical frameworks suggesting underlying conceptual convergence between seemingly disparate supernatural systems, practical applications where techniques from various traditions achieved similar effects through different methodological approaches. This supports hypothesis that supernatural systems represent different methodological approaches to manipulating same underlying metaphysical principles, she concluded, scholarly enthusiasm evident beneath composed exterior. Like scientists describing same physical phenomenon through different mathematical languages, quantum formulations versus wave equations expressing identical reality through different conceptual frameworks. Which suggests theoretical possibility for translation methodology between systems, Issei extended her reasoning naturally. If underlying principles remain consistent, techniques from disparate traditions could potentially achieve compatibility through proper conceptual reformulation. Precisely, Tsubaki confirmed with approving nod. My family's onmyo-ji traditions include purification techniques that manipulate dimensional boundaries between physical and spiritual realms. Conceptually related to your infinity barriers despite completely different methodological approach and energy source. Their intellectual exchange continued with remarkable synchronicity, concepts flowing between them with minimal explanation requirements as each anticipated logical extensions and identified conceptual connections. This cognitive resonance created unexpectedly personal connection beneath scholarly discussion, intellectual compatibility establishing rapport. RT transcending purely strategic information exchange. Your analytical capabilities extend well beyond student council administrative requirements, Issei observed during natural conversation pause. Strategic intelligence combined with genuine scholarly depth. Something shifted in Tsubaki's composed demeanor, brief vulnerability beneath professional efficiency. My position serves practical purposes beyond apparent administrative functions. Kaichu values comprehensive perspective combining theoretical understanding with practical application. Similar to my developing situation, Issei noted with growing appreciation for their parallel circumstances. Balancing theoretical knowledge from awakening memories with practical application requirements in current reality. Though your challenges include identity integration complexities beyond my experience, Tsubaki acknowledged thoughtfully. How proceeds the balance between your core self and awakening consciousness? The Questio N demonstrated unexpected personal concern beneath scholarly interest. genuine engagement with human element beyond supernatural phenomenon. Increasingly complex, Issei admitted honestly. Technical knowledge transfers relatively cleanly, but personality aspects create occasional dissonance. Gojo Satoru developed certain perspectives through centuries of existence that sometimes conflict with my fundamental character orientation. Such as, Tsubaki inquired with careful balance between professional interest and personal concern. Issei considered how to articulate the subtle identity conflict. ICTS emerging through memory integration. Confidence bordering on arrogance regarding personal capabilities. Detached amusement toward ordinary human limitations. Occasionally calculating approach to morality based on outcome efficiency rather than conventional ethical frameworks. Understandable developmental variations given vastly different experiential contexts, Tsubaki observed with analytical precision that nonetheless conveyed empathetic understanding. Extended lifespan naturally alters perspective regarding immediate circumstances versus long-term considerations, creating occasional internal conflict regarding appropriate response patterns, Issei confirmed. Immediate reactions sometimes reflect Gojo's personality aspects before conscious moderation applies. Have you considered deliberate integration methodology rather than passive memory absorption? Tsubaki suggested thoughtfully. My tradition includes meditation techniques specifically designed for balancing disparate consciousness aspects during advanced spiritual development. I'd be interested in learning more, Issei acknowledged, genuine appreciation for her thoughtful engagement with his unique circumstance. Their conversation continued until lunch period concluded, intellectual exchange establishing connection that transcended purely strategic information sharing while remaining appropriately formal given their developing acquaintance. As they gathered research materials, Tsubaki extended small leather-bound journal inscribed with geometric patterns. Family meditation guide, she explained. D with unusual hesitation suggesting personal significance beyond academic sharing. Traditional techniques adapted through generations for consciousness integration during spiritual advancement. Her APS useful reference for your specific circumstances. The gesture represented trust beyond strategic alliance. Sharing family-specific knowledge rarely extended to outside individuals. Thank you, Issei responded, recognizing meaningful connection beneath practical assistance. I'll treat it with appropriate respect. Something warm flickered through Tsubaki's typically composed expression. I believe you will. Afternoon classes passed with relative normalcy until final period, when discreet message arrived requesting Issei's presence at Occult Research Club headquarters. The formal exemption from remaining academic obligations carried official school administration approval, indication of Sona Citri's cooperative arrangement with Rias despite competitive underlying dynamics. The old school building radiated unusual energy when Issei approached, not threatening but distinctly different from previous visits. Inside, the club room contained expected members plus unexpected added. Ion. Silver-haired woman approximately college age wearing formal business attire distinctly out of place among high school uniforms. Her posture conveyed professional composure while emerald eyes SSED him with scholarly intensity the moment he entered. Ah, Issei, Rias greeted with pleased expression. Perfect timing. Allow me to introduce Rosweiss, recently appointed magical consultant Fr. Asgard specializing in cross-system theoretical applications. She's agreed to provide technical assistance regarding your developing abilities. The silver-haired woman approached with efficient directness, extending formal handshake. Fascinating case study, she stated without preamble, clinical interest evident beneath professional courtesy. Interdimensional consciousness transfer manifest. System-independent abilities within established supernatural framework. Unprecedented research opportunity. Rosweiss previously served as Valkyrie assigned to Odin's personal security detail. Akino explained with subtle amusement at the consultant's direct approach. Her academic credentials include 7 advanced magical theory degrees from various supernatural educational institutions. 8. Rosweiss corrected automatically. Recently completed thesis on convergent thaumaturgical principles across disparate mythological frameworks received certification last month. Impressive credentials, Issei acknowledged, immediately recognizing valuable resource beyond devil-specific magical knowledge. Norse magical traditions operated through fundamentally different principles than devil systems. potentially offering alternative perspective on his developing abilities. Rossweiss will observe your training session today, Rias explained. Providing theoretical assessment regarding your abilities, underlying principles and potential development trajectories. Her expertise in cross-system magical theory offers unique perspective beyond devil-specific analysis limitations. I've prepared preliminary assessment protocols, Rossweiss stated efficiently, producing tablet device containing complex magical formulations alongside conventional scientific notation. Non-invasive observation methodologies designed to catalog energy manipulation patterns without disrupting natural manifestation processes. Her clinical approach balanced professional detachment with genuine intellectual curiosity, scientific researcher encountering unprecedented phenomenon rather than factional representative assessing strategic asset. This perspective offered valuable counterpoint to devil-specific political considerations that inevitably colored Grimoire assessment. Transportation Circle is prepared for training facility access, Rias announced, gesturing toward elaborate magic. Owl formation inscribed on floor section normally concealed beneath ornate carpet. Standard security protocols apply. Authorized personnel only through designated access points. The teleportation process involved precise positioning within geometrically arranged symbols pulsing with crimson energy. As authorized human ally rather than peerage member, Issei required physical contact with Devil Participant to navigate transportation network, Akino providing necessary connection through casual hand placement on his shoulder that nonetheless conveyed subtle personal acknowledgement beyond functional requirement. Reality shifted through crimson-tinged displacement, momentary sensory discontinuity followed by instantaneous relocation to entirely different environment. Where the club room had Ed Victorian aesthetic through carefully selected furnishings, their destination featured modern efficiency through industrial design principles, reinforced architecture combining magical containment elements with practical training infrastructure. Grimoire Development Facility, Sector 7, Rias introduced with proprietary pride evident beneath casual presentation. Specialized training environment designed for high-energy technique refinement with appropriate safety parameters. The facility impressed through clearly purposeful design rather than mere ostentation, reinforced chambers fetu. Ring variable difficulty simulation capabilities, monitoring systems capturing performance metrics with precise measurement parameters, recovery areas equipped with medical and magical restoration resources. Analytical equipment designed for technique assessment across multiple supernatural classifications. Primary testing chamber prepared for initial capability assessment, Kiba explained, led group toward central area featuring particularly robust containment architecture. Safety protocols established for energy discharge up to SS classification with multi-layer barrier redundancy. Overkill for preliminary evaluation, Issei observed, noting excessive safety margin compared to his current development level. Appropriate precaution given unpredictable growth trajectory, Rossweiss, is countered with professional assessment overriding concern for personal feelings. Initial containment parameters should always exceed anticipated output by substantial safety margin when evaluating unclassified phenomena. Her practical perspective reflected experienced researcher methodology rather than insulting capability underestimation, establishment of proper scientific protocols for unknown variable investigation. This approach earned Issei's respect despite somewhat clinical framing of his abilities as research subject rather than personal development. The testing chamber interior featured minimalist design optimized for function, open space approximately 30 meters diameter surrounded by reinforced walls inscribed with multiple barrier formulations, observation area Sapara. TED through transparent energy shield allowing safe monitoring without isolation, adjustable environmental controls permitting variable condition simulation for diverse technique assessment. Initial evaluation will establish baseline parameters, Rossweiss explained, configuring monitoring equipment with efficient precision. Beginning with passive energy emission patterns before progressing to active technique manifestation under controlled conditions. Her methodical approach provided welcome structure for evaluating abilities developing through sometimes unpredictable memory integration. Where Devil assessment focused primarily on combat application potential, Rossweiss's scientific methodology emphasized fundamental understanding before practical application, knowledge foundation upwarding capability development rather than merely cataloging observable effects. We'll start with basic energy circulation visualization, she instructed, activating scanning array that projected multispectral analysis field throughout chamber. Please maintain normal consciousness state without active technique initiation. The scanning process revealed fascinating results immediately visible. Eon monitoring displays Issei's natural energy pattern demonstrating fundamental differences from Devil's signatures despite superficial similarities in manifestation capacity. Where Devil energy circulated through established pathways determined by evil peace influence or bloodline inheritance, his pattern showed mathematical precision resembling complex equation expressed through biological medium. Extraordinary, Rossweiss murmured, professional detachment momentarily overcome by genuine scientific fascination. Energy circulation demonstrates self-optimizing pattern recognition consistent. T with continuous calculation processing. System constantly solves spatial equations unconsciously even during passive state. 6 Eyes fundamental function, Issei confirmed, articulating knowledge emerging from integrated memories. Continuous reality calculation providing necessary computational foundation for limitless technique application. Without this processing capability, infinity manipulation becomes mathematically impossible to control. Explaining why such abilities remain system exclusive, Rias observed thoughtfully. Without specialized perceptual framework, conceptual manipulation at this scale would exceed processing capacity of conventional supernatural entities. Precisely, Rossweiss agreed, adjusting scanning parameters for deeper analysis. Now, please initiate basic technique manifestation, lowest intensity application sufficient for pattern observation. Issei accessed developing abilities with growing confidence, extending hand as blue energy manifestation became visible around his fingers. The simple infinity barrier, maintaining minute distance between specific spatial coordinates, represented fundamental application from which more complex techniques derived. Remarkable efficiency ratio, Rossweiss noted with professional appreciation. Energy expenditure nearly optimal relative to effect manifestation. Most supernatural systems demonstrate significant conversion loss between power input and technique output. 6 Eyes optimization, Issei explained, maintaining technique while articulating understanding. Perception identifies mathematically perfect application pathway, eliminating inefficient energy distribution through precise calculation. Now increase complexity gradually, Rossweiss instructed, monitoring equipment capturing. Detailed analysis of developing manifestation. Progressive technique advancement while maintaining control parameters. Issei expanded application scope, simple barrier between specific points evolving into more comprehensive spatial manipulation affecting three-dimensional coordinates simultaneously. Blue energy visualization intensified proportionally, physical manifestation representing conceptual manipulation occurring at fundamental reality level. The monitoring equipment recorded everything with scientific precision, energy dispersal patterns, mathematical formulation sequences, reality distortion measurements across multiple dimensional parameters. Rossweiss's expression reflected growing scientific excitement beneath professional composure, researcher encountering unprecedented phenomenon exceeding theoretical expectations. The manipulation operates through mathematical principles rather than energy assertion, she observed with academic precision. Instead of forcing reality compliance through power application like conventional supernatural techniques, this methodology rewrites spatial equations defining reality relationships. Conceptual manipulation rather than energy competition. Akano summarized with impressive comprehension. Redefining fundamental parameters instead of overpowering existing frameworks. Exactly, Rossweiss confirmed with approving nod toward the unexpected insight. Now, please attempt progressive technique variations if current development permits. Issei accessed deeper knowledge emerging from memory integration, transitioning from basic infinity to more complex blue application, active force exerting attractive pull through infinity manipulation rather than passive barrier establishment. The technique manifestation shifted visibly, energy pattern reorganizing around new conceptual framework while maintaining mathematical precision. Fascinating application evolution, Rossweiss commented, monitoring equipment capturing detailed transition mechanics. Fundamental principle remains consistent while expression methodology adapts for different effect parameters. Remarkably elegant design efficiency. Testing continue. Through progressive complexity stages, various limitless technique applications demonstrating different conceptual approaches to infinity manipulation. Throughout evaluation, Rossweiss maintained detailed documentation while occasionally consulting with Rios regarding specific observations requiring contextual interpretation. After comprehensive baseline establishment, the assessment shifted to practical application through controlled combat simulation. Hiba volunteered as initial training partner, his exceptional speed providing appropriate challenge for spatial manipulation techniques requiring precise timing application. Begin with defensive application against progressive difficulty attacks, Rossweiss instructed, configuring monitoring systems for dynamic interaction assessment. Establishing practical response parameters beyond theoretical manifestation capabilities. Hiba approached training with professional seriousness beneath friendly demeanor, sword materializing wit. Casual precision that nonetheless demonstrated years of disciplined practice. Ready when you are, he confirmed, adopting initial stance reflecting formal training foundation beneath combat-developed adaptations. Issei accessed Limitless with growing confidence, establishing spatial manipulation framework as Kiba began movement pattern designed to test reaction capabilities rather than inflict actual damage. The swordsman's speed impressed. Approaching supernatural levels even by devil standards, blade tracing precise patterns requiring exceptional spatial awareness to track effectively. Instead of conventional evasion, Issei applied targeted infinity barriers at interception points. Not continuous protection but strategic placement requiring precise calculation of attack trajectories. The technique worked effectively against initial approach, spatial distortion preventing blade contact despite seemingly successful attack pattern. Efficient application minimizing energy expenditure, Rossweiss noted approvingly. Targeted defense rather than broad protection establishing optimal resource allocation. Continue with progressive difficulty increase. Hiba adjusted accordingly, speed and complexity advancing through carefully calibrated stages designed to identify capability thresholds without overwhelming developing techniques. Each progression required corresponding adaptat. Ion from Issei. Defensive applications evolving from reactive positioning to predictive calculation as Six-Eyes perception processed attack patterns with increasing efficiency. Perceptual processing demonstrates exponential improvement through practical application, Rossweiss observed, monitoring equipment capturing detailed development metrics. Learning curve suggests accelerated adaptation APA city beyond conventional supernatural evolution parameters. Muscle memory from previous incarnation activating through practical stimulation, Akano suggested thoughtfully. Physical application, triggering procedural knowledge integration more effectively than theoretical understanding alone. Consistent with established consciousness transfer patterns, Rossweiss confirmed with scholarly appreciation for the insight. Procedural memory typically transfers more efficiently than declarative knowledge during reincarnation processes. The observation contained important implications for Issei's development approach, practical application potentially accelerating ability integration more effectively than theoretical study alone. This understanding suggested training methodology emphasizing active implementation rather than passive knowledge acquisition, regardless of current capability limitations. Testing continued with progressive difficulty increase, Hiba eventually incorporating devil energy enhancement into attack patterns, blade manifestations carrying supernatural properties beyond physical parameters. This development required corresponding technique adaptation from Issei, infinity barriers adjusting to account for metaphysical components beyond simple spatial coordinates. Now attempt offensive application if development permits, Rossweiss instructed after defensive capabilities reached temporary plateau, transitioning from passive resistance to active engagement within controlled parameters. This request presented greater challenge. Offensive techniques are presenting more complex conceptual framework than defensive applications. Issei accessed emerging knowledge regarding limitless variants, blue technique representing appropriate progression from boss C infinity manipulation to more active spatial control. The technique manifested visually as concentrated energy pattern extending from his hand toward designated target area, not projective attack conventional magical discharge but spatial distortion creating attractive force through infinity manipulation. Instead of traveling through space like normal energy projection, the technique altered space itself between points, creating pull effect independent of conventional force limitations. Hiba responded with impressive adaptability, recognizing unconventional attack methodology and adjusting defensive approach accordingly. Rather than attempting direct resistance against irresistible attractive force, he incorporated the pull into movement pattern, redirecting momentum through practic-ed technique rather than opposing fundamental spatial manipulation directly. Excellent tactical adaptation. Rias complimented her knight, aristocratic pride evident beneath casual acknowledgement. Quote, recognizing futility of direct opposition against conceptual manipulation and implementing appropriate alternative response. Strategic flexibility represents essential component of effective combat. Methodology regardless of specific technique parameters, Hiba replied with characteristic modesty that nonetheless conveyed proper pride in professional capability. Training continued through various permutations, different technique applications against diverse response patterns, establishing comprehensive performance baseline while identifying specific development requirements for future progression. Throughout the process, Rosweiss maintained detailed documentation while occasionally consulting with Rias regarding contextual interpretation of observed phenomena. When initial assessment reached natural conclusion, the group transitioned to analytical discussion regarding findings and implications. The facility included dedicated conference area featuring both conventional furniture and specialized visualization equipment for reviewing collected data. Preliminary analysis suggests several significant observations. Rosweiss began with clinical precision, organizing findings through both magical and scientific classification methodologies. First, energy signature demonstrates fundamental difference from established supernatural categories, neither devil, angel, yokai nor conventional human magical pattern. Holographic display illustrated this distinction through comparative visualization, Issei's energy signature appearing as mathematically precise lattice structure C. Compared to more organic patterns typical of established supernatural classifications. Second, technique mechanics operate through reality equation manipulation rather than energy assertion, she continued. Display shifting to demonstrate conceptual differences between conventional supernatural abilities and limitless applications. Instead of overpowering existing parameters through superior force application, the methodology rewrites fundamental spatial relationships through mathematical reformulation, which explains effectiveness against entities normally resistant to conventional supernatural techniques. Rias observed thoughtfully. Cursed spirits proved vulnerable despite dimensional phase shifting specifically because spatial manipulation affects fundamental reality parameters rather than merely engaging physical manifestation. Precisely, Rosweiss confirmed with scholarly approval for the insight. Third observation concerns development trajectory, ability integration demonstrates accelerated progression through practical application compared to theoretical understanding alone. Muscle memory activation triggers comprehensive knowledge transfer more effectively than conscious recall attempts. Suggesting training methodology emphasizing active implementation within controlled parameters rather than passive study, Akino concluded with impressive analytical precision. Physical application creating stronger integration pathway between current consciousness and previous incarnation knowledge base. Correct, Rosweiss acknowledged with growing appreciation for the Vice President's insightful contributions. Final preliminary observation concerns integration potential with established supernatural systems. Conceptual foundation demonstrates theoretical compatibility despite methodological differences. This conclusion particularly interested Issei, given earlier discussion with Tsubaki regarding system integration possibilities. Compatibility mechanism, he inquired, seeking specific details beyond general assessment. Mathematical principles underlying spatial manipulation remain consistent regardless of energy source powering application, Rosweiss explained. Display illustrating theoretical framework. While cursed energy represents optimal implementation medium given specifically evolved compatibility, alternative supernatural energy could potentially achieve similar effects through proper conversion methodology, creating possibility for hybrid technique development incorporating elements from multiple systems, Rias noted. Ith strategic consideration evident beneath scholarly interest. Potentially revolutionary advancement in supernatural capability classification. Theoretical possibility only at this stage, Rosweiss cautioned professionally. Practical implementation requires extensive research regarding conversion mechanics between fundamentally different energy types. However, preliminary analysis suggests promising direction for long-term development consideration. The discussion continued through detailed examination of specific observations, establishing comprehensive understanding of current kappa abilities while identifying priority development areas for future training. Throughout analysis, Rosweiss maintained impressive balance between scientific precision and practical application consideration, theoretical understanding supporting capability advancement rather than academic knowledge for its own sake. As session concluded, Rias approached Issei with expression suggesting additional considerations beyond technical assessment. The findings appear promising from development perspective, she noted with aristocratic composure, maintaining despite evident excitement regarding possibilities. However, political implications warrant careful consideration alongside technical progression. Political implications, Issei inquired, recognizing significance beyond personal development concerns. Abilities operating outside established supernatural classification systems inevitably attract attention from various factions, Rias explained with diplomatic precision, reflecting her aristocratic upbringing. My family has already expressed interest regarding your unique capabilities, particularly given alliance arrangement recently established. The statement contained complex implications beneath surface meaning. Aristocratic devil politics introducing additional considerations beyond personal development priorities. Rias's careful phrasing suggested protective intention regarding potential family interference rather than attempt to leverage connection for house advantage. Your family holds significant political position within devil hierarchy, correct? Issei recalled Fro's earlier explanations regarding supernatural social structures. My brother Sirzex currently serves as Lucifer, one of 4 Mao governing devil society, Rias confirmed with carefully neutral expression belying complicated personal feelings regarding family position. His interest, while generally protective, inevitably carries political implications given official capacity. This revelation contextualized certain behaviors previously observed, Rias occasionally demonstrating determination to establish independent achievement beyond family connection. Subtle resistance against expectations attached to Grimoire name. Careful balance between aristocratic responsibility and personal identity development. I appreciate the warning, Issei acknowledged, recognizing genuine concern beneath political notification. Though I suspect supernatural politics would inevitably become relevant regardless of specific family connections. Unfortunately accurate assessment, Rias agreed with resigned practicality. Unique abilities operating outside established classification parameters naturally attract political attention across factional boundaries. However, specific connections introduce particular considerations worth advance awareness. Their conversation was interrupted by Akino approaching with subtle grace that nonetheless conveyed purposeful intervention. Training assessment H, as provided substantial information requiring proper processing, she noted with characteristic blend of formal courtesy and personal warmth. Perhaps continued discussion might benefit from refreshment and comfortable surroundings. The suggestion demonstrated emotional intelligence beyond merely practical consideration, recognizing potential sensitivity regarding family politics and suggesting appropriate context transition. Rias acknowledged this with grateful glance toward her vice president before agreeing to venue change. The facility included comfortable recreation area designed for relaxation following intensive training sessions. As group relocated to this space, conversational dynamics shifted naturally from formal assessment to more casual interaction, professional analysis transitioning to personal connection without diminishing substantive content. Your abilities demonstrate remarkable potential beyond immediate application parameters, Rosweiss observed, professional assessment continuing despite relaxed setting. The theoretical framework suggests developmental possibilities extending significantly beyond current manifestation capacity. You mean techniques beyond basic limitless application? Issei noted, accessing emerging knowledge regarding advanced capability progression. Precisely, Rosweiss confirmed. Preliminary analysis suggests foundational structure supporting diverse technique variations beyond current implementation. The mathematical precision observed indicates capacity for substantially more complex reality manipulation through proper development methodology. Domain expansion, Issei murmured, name emerging from memory integration without conscious recall attempt. Rosweiss's expression reflected immediate interest despite professionally contained excitement. Elaborate please, This terminology doesn't appear in standard supernatural classification systems. Advanced technique representing comprehensive application of spatial manipulation principles. Issei explained, knowledge flowing from increasingly accessible memory integration. Instead of localized effect targeting specific coordinates, domain expansion create. Reality subset operating through user-defined parameters rather than conventional physical laws. You're describing reality marble mechanics, Rias interjected with surprise evident beneath composed exterior. Extremely rare ability among highest-tier supernatural entities allowing temporary reality creation within isolated dimensional pocket. Similar conceptual framework, different implementation methodology. Rossweiss clarified with academic precision. Reality marbles typically represent externalized soul landscape requiring enormous power expenditure to maintain. This description suggests mathematical reconfiguration of existing space rather than separate reality creation, potentially more efficient despite similar apparent effect. Their discussion continued through theoretic exploration of advanced technique possibilities, establishing developmental roadmap extending beyond immediate capability parameters. Throughout conversation, Issei noticed interesting dynamic between Rossweiss and Akino. Initial professional distance gradually diminishing through mutual intellectual engagement, scholarly respect establishing connection transcending formal roles. As evening approached, practical considerations regarding return transportation arose. Training facility located sufficiently distant from Kuo town to require teleportation circle access rather than conventional travel. During preparation for departure, Rossweiss approached Issei with professional courtesy balanced by genuine intellectual interest. I've prepared initial assessment report containing detailed observations and preliminary recommendations, she explained, transferring digital document to communication device provided through alliance arrangement. Review at convenience, noting particular MPHACs on integration methodology between theoretical understanding and practical application. I appreciate the comprehensive analysis, Issei acknowledged sincerely. Your cross-system perspective provides valuable insight beyond Devil-specific magical framework. Something shifted in Rossweiss's professionally composed demeanor, brief vulnerability beneath academic efficiency. The opportunity to study genuinely unprecedented phenomenon represents rare privilege within supernatural research community. Your cooperation with assessment protocols demonstrates commendable scientific contribution beyond personal development priorities. The comment revealed something important about her character, passionate researcher beneath efficient professional exterior, genuinely dedicated to knowledge advancement rather than merely fulfilling assigned responsibilities. This authentic intellectual curiosity established connection transcending formal consultant relationship, creating foundation for potential friendship beyond technical collaboration. Perhaps future sessions might explore hybrid application possibilities, Issei suggested, recognizing mutual benefit beyond initial assessment parameters. Your expertise in cross-system magical theory seems particularly relevant for developing integration methodology between cursed energy techniques and established supernatural frameworks. I would welcome such collaboration. Rossweiss acknowledged with carefully modulated enthusiasm nonetheless visible beneath professional composure. My research specialty specifically addresses convergent applications between disparate magical systems. Your unique circumstance provides unprecedented practical case study for theoretical principles previously limited to academic modeling. The IR exchange established meaningful connection beyond formal assessment relationship, mutual intellectual respect creating foundation for potential friendship development alongside professional collaboration. This interaction pattern repeated throughout Issei's developing supernatural connections, relationships beginning through practical necessity before evolving toward personal significance through genuine compatibility discovery. Transportation back to Kuo Academy proceeded through teleportation circle with now familiar crimson displacement effect. Upon return to Occult Research Club headquarters, evening had fully claimed the sky outside leaded glass windows, campus grounds empty of ordinary students while supernatural activity continued unaffected by conventional schedules. Tomorrow's training will incorporate findings from today's assessment, Rias explained as group prepared for evening conclusion. Rossweiss has agreed to develop specialized exercises targeting priority development areas identified through initial evaluation. I'll prepare comprehensive program integrating theoretical advancement with practical application methodology, the consultant confirmed with Issei and professionalism nonetheless containing genuine enthusiasm for project. Today's observations suggest several promising directions for immediate capability enhancement while establishing foundation for long-term development trajectory. As departure arrangements proceeded, Akeno approached Issei with characteristic grace containing subtle warmth beneath formal courtesy. Your progress demonstrates remarkable adaptation capacity, she observed with genuine appreciation rather than mere polite acknowledgement, particularly considering significant challenges inherent to your unique circumstance. The support system makes considerable difference, Issei acknowledged honestly. Having structured framework for developing abilities significantly improves integration efficiency compared to isolated experimentation. Something softened in Akeno's violet eyes, appreciation for sincere recognition rather than merely formal gratitude. Balance remains essential consideration beyond technical development, she noted with unexpected personal emphasis. Maintaining core identity while integrating new capabilities requires psychological equilibrium alongside power advancement. The observation demonstrated surprising empathetic awareness beyond strategic assessment, suggesting personal experience with identity integration challenges. Through Six Eyes perception, Issei again noticed T's subtle complexity in her energy signature, devil power interwoven with something fundamentally different, suppressed but present beneath primary magical identity. Speaking from experience, he inquired carefully, respecting potential sensitivity while acknowledging implied personal connection. Brief vulnerability flickered across Akeno's composed features, surprise at perceptive insight followed by consideration regarding appropriate response. After momentary hesitation, she offered measured acknowledgement. Different circumstances but perhaps parallel challenges. Integrating disparate ECTS of oneself while maintaining coherent identity represents universal difficulty regardless of specific situation. The carefully worded response conveyed meaningful personal disclosure without overstepping developing relationship boundaries, invitation for deeper connection without premature intimacy. This balanced approach demonstrated emotional intelligence complementing her evident supernatural capabilities, suggesting complexity beyond initial impression. I'm finding meditation techniques helpful for maintaining perspective during integration process, Issei shared, reciprocating personal disclosure with appropriate matching depth, establishing internal dialogue between different consciousness aspects rather than allowing passive absorption. Thoughtful approach with psychological validity beyond merely practical application, Akeno commented approvingly. Perhaps comparing specific methodologies might prove mutually beneficial sometime. Different traditional approaches of 10 contain complementary elements worth integration consideration. I'd like that, Issei agreed, recognizing genuine connection opportunity beyond merely strategic interaction. Their conversation concluded as departure arrangements completed. Kiba once again assigned escort responsibility for Issei's return home. As they prepared to leave, Rossweiss approached with final professional comment that nonetheless contained personal acknowledgement beyond formal assessment relationship. Your cooperation with evaluation protocols has provided valuable research data beyond immediate development applications, she stated with characteristic precision nonetheless conveying genuine appreciation. I look forward to continued collaboration exploring theoretical frameworks underlying your unique abilities. Likewise, Issei acknowledged sincerely. Your cross-system perspective offers valuable viewpoint beyond specific tradition limitations. Something warmed briefly in Rossweiss's emerald eyes, appreciation for recognition as individual researcher beyond merely assigned consultant role. This subtle personal connection beneath professional interaction represented recurring pattern through UGH out Issei's developing supernatural relationships, formal arrangements gradually evolving toward meaningful connections through genuine compatibility discovery. Twilight painted Kuo town in W. Atercolor indigos as Kiba and Issei departed campus grounds, streetlights creating islands of illumination along quiet residential streets. Their conversation flowed naturally between supernatural discussion and ordinary topics, balanced perspective maintaining connection with both extraordinary development and normal teenage experience. The training assessment seemed productive from technical perspective, Kiba observed as they navigated familiar route toward Issei's neighborhood. Rossweiss's analytical methodology provides valuable structural framework for your developing abilities. Our cross-system perspective offers important viewpoint beyond devil-specific magical understanding, Issei agreed. Particularly regarding integration possibilities between different supernatural frameworks. Their discussion continued through various assessment aspects until approaching familiar temple grounds where Issei had twice encountered the enigmatic groundskeeper. Tonight the entrance stood empty. Stone guardians silhouetted against darkening sky while paper lanterns cast gentle illumination across worn steps. As they passed the property boundary, both sensed subtle energy shift, not threatening but distinctly intentional. Barrier adjustment rather than activation. Moments later, the elderly groundskeeper emerged from shadow with casual timing that nonetheless suggested deliberate intervention rather than coincidental appearance. The boundary walker returns with sword spirit companion, he observed with cryptic formality containing undertones of amusement. Training proceeds through devil methodology while jujutsu knowledge awakens through fragmented recollection. Interesting developmental approach. His knowledge of their recent activities despite physical absence demo. NSTRATED concerning information network or supernatural perception beyond ordinary capabilities. Kiba tensed slightly, professional caution engaging despite outwardly relaxed demeanor. You seem remarkably well informed about private activities, Issei noted neutrally, neither confirming nor denying specific details. The old man chuckled softly. These eyes have watched Kuos boundaries for decades, young one. Little occurs within spiritual parameters without ripples across perceptual plane. His gaze shifted toward Kiba with knowing assessment rather than hostility. Devil training provides valuable discipline foundation. Though system-specific limitations inevitably constrain certain developmental directions. And you offer alternative perspective. Issei inquired carefully, recognizing potential information source without committing to specific engagement. The temple archives contain records predating current supernatural factional divisions, the groundskeeper confirmed with enigmatic smile. When cursed spirits walked these lands openly, jujutsu barriers maintained boundaries between worlds that modern practitioners have forgotten or abandoned. His statement contained important implications, confirmation that jujutsu techniques existed within this world's history independently from Issei's reincarnated memories. This supported theory that cursed spirit incursions presented reconnection with existing dimensional pathway rather than entirely new supernatural manifestation. These records, Issei pressed cautiously. They contain specific information regarding cursed spirit countermeasures beyond general barrier principles. Comprehensive documentation from era when such knowledge determined survival rather than merely academic interest, the groundskeep. Are confirmed with suddenly serious expression, including specific barrier formulations designed for dimensional boundary reinforcement against cursed energy intrusion. This represented potentially the valuable information source beyond devil-specific supernatural knowledge, historical documentation regarding precise phenomenon currently affecting Kuo rather than merely related supernatural classification. The strategic value warranted careful consideration despite uncertain reliability of strange groundskeepers' exact affiliations. Such information would certainly complement devil territorial protection measures currently being implemented, Issei acknowledged diplomatically, neither accepting nor rejecting implied offer while establishing potential collaborative framework rather than competitive positioning. The old man nodded approvingly, apparently recognizing balanced response and tension. Integration rather than exclusion. Wise approach transcending factional limitations. He prod. UCED small wooden box from voluminous sleeve, extending it with formal gesture suggesting ceremonial significance beyond merely practical offering. Initial reference materials regarding barrier fundamentals. He explained as Issei carefully accepted the container. When proper foundation established, temple archives will provide comprehensive documentation according to traditional progression methodology. The approach represented structured educational system rather than merely information sharing, progressive knowledge transmission following established teaching protocols similar to traditional martial arts instruction models. This formality suggested organized tradition rather than merely individual practitioner, raising further questions about the groundskeeper's actual position with the apparently established jujutsu community. I appreciate the guidance, Issei acknowledged with appropriate formality matching ceremonial atmosphere without committing beyond current exchange parameters. Return when initial materials properly integrated, the groundskeeper instructed before retreating toward temple grounds with surprising agility belying apparent age. Foundations must estably shish properly before advanced techniques attempt, regardless of previous incarnation capabilities. With that cryptic advisory, he disappeared into evening shadows with practiced ease suggesting supernatural enhancement despite apparently human presentation. The encounter left both Issei and Kiba thoughtfully silent as they resumed their journey, processing implications regarding additional information source beyond established alliance framework. Interesting development, Kiba observed diplomatically once sufficient distance established for private conversation. Though prudent security iterations suggest comprehensive verification before information implementation, particularly given uncertain affiliation parameters. Agreed, Issei confirmed, recognizing legitimate caution beneath friendly phrasing. Though potential value warrants careful examination rather than dismissive rejection despite verification requirements. Their discussion continued through balanced assessment of potential benefits and security concerns regarding this unexpected knowledge source. As conversation developed, Issei realized how quickly he'd adapted to supernatural political considerations, evaluating information sources through strategic lens that would have seemed entirely foreign to his perspective mere weeks ago. The wooden box remained unopened until they reached Issei's home. Security protocols established through devil barriers confirming absence of harmful enchantments or tracking mechanisms within the container. Inside, carefully preserved scrolls contained precise calligraphy depicting barrier formulations alongside mathematical notations that resonated immediately with Six Eyes' perception, conceptual frameworks demonstrating remarkable similarity to techniques half-remembered from Gojo's awakening memories. These appear legitimate from technical perspective, Issei assessed after careful examination through enhanced perception. Mathematical principles align precisely with spatial manipulation concepts underlying Limitless technique foundation. Not modern fabrication but authentic documentation from practitioners understanding fundamental principles rather than merely recording observed effects. Suggesting legitimate knowledge source despite uncertain affiliation parameters, Kiba acknowledged thoughtfully. Though comprehensive background investigation remains advisable before establishing formal information exchange relationship. This balanced assessment demonstrated prudent security consideration without reflexive rejection based merely on factional boundaries, practical approach to potentially valuable resource regardless of originating tradition. Such flexibility represented important adaptation within supernatural political landscape where rigid factional isolation inevitably created knowledge limitations despite apparent security benefits. After Kiba's departure, Issei examined the scrolls more thoroughly, detailed barrier formulations specifically designed for dimensional boundary reinforcement against cursed energy intrusion. The mathematical precision triggered cascading recognition within awakening memories, concepts aligning with fragmented knowledge from Gojo's lifetime while providing systematic organization previously lacking in partial recollections. Most significantly, the documentation contained specific reference to geographical locations within Kuo Town, spiritual landmarks establishing natural boundary network predating modern development. These points created interconnected barrier system when properly activated, reinforcing dimensional separation beyond isolated protection measures. This information suggested comprehensive countermeasure possibility against cursed spirit incursions beyond merely reactive defense against individual manifestations, systematic boundary reinforcement preventing dimensional thinning that facilitated transit between realities. Such protective network would require significant implementation effort but potentially address fundamental vulnerability rather than merely responding to symptomatic manifestations. Recognizing strategic importance of this discovery, Issei documented key findings for presentation during tomorrow's alliance meeting while carefully organizing original materials for proper preservation. The unexpected information source demonstrated value in maintaining flexible approach to knowledge acquisition beyond established factional boundaries, integration rather than exclusion providing comprehensive perspective unavailable through singular tradition limitation. As night deepened outside, he attempted meditation technique described in Tsubaki's family journal, consciousness integration methodology specifically designed for balancing disparate aspects during spiritual development. The approach differed significantly from conventional devil techniques previously suggested, emphasizing harmonious coexistence between different awareness components rather than hierarchical organization through dominant consciousness assertion. Within meditative state, conceptual space manifestation appeared with now familiar parameters, mental landscape where communication between consciousness aspects occurred through symbolic representation rather than conventional dialogue. Gojo's manifestation appeared with characteristic casual confidence, though things seemed slightly different about his presentation, less separate entity and more integrated aspect of comprehensive identity. Interesting approach, the manifestation observed, examining Suro. NDING conceptual space with analytical curiosity. Different methodological framework than conventional jujutsu consciousness techniques. Emphasizes cooperative integration rather than compartmentalized organization. Onmyoji tradition specifically designed for balancing disparate spiritual aspects, Issei explained, noting increased information sharing between consciousness components compared to previous interactions. Seems potentially applicable to our unique circumstance despite different originating context. Creative adaptation represents consistent strength across various incarnations, Gojo's aspect noted approvingly. System-independent problem-solving methodology transcending specific tradition limitations. Their interaction progressed through comprehensive information exchange regarding recent developments, training assessment findings, unexpected jujutsu knowledge source discovery, political implications surrounding unique ability classification. Throughout dialogue, Issei noticed subtle shift in communication dynamics compared to previous manifestations, less distinct separation between perspectives and more collaborative consideration from integrated viewpoint. The integration proceeds more effectively than anticipated, Gojo's aspect observed, apparently noticing same dynamic shift. Not personality subsuming but perspective merging, collaborative consciousness rather than competitive override. Maintaining distinct aspects while establishing cooperative framework, Issei confirmed, recognizing important developmental indication. Individual strengths. Contributing to comprehensive whole rather than dominant identity erasing alternative perspective. This evolving integration represented significant progress toward balanced development, maintaining core identity while incorporating valuable aspects from previous incarnation without personality dissolution through overwhelming memory transfer. The meditative technique provided effective framework for this controlled integration process, supporting harmonious consciousness development rather than chaotic absorption or rigid separation. As meditation concluded and normal consciousness restored, Issei recognized important milestone in his developing circumstance, pathway toward balanced integration establishing where previously uncertainty dominated regarding potential personality subsumption through memory transfer. This psychological progress complemented capability development through training assessment, creating comprehensive advancement across multiple developmental dimensions. Omoro would bring further training incorporating assessment findings, alliance meeting discussing strategic implications of jujutsu knowledge discovery, and continued relationship development within expanding supernatural connections. The converging domains, human and jujutsu sorcerer, devil alliance and independent development, multiple magical systems and hybrid applications, created complex integration challenges alongside unprecedented opportunity for comprehensive growth beyond traditional limitations. Between these convergent domains, infinity existed not as separation but as endless possibility within finite existence. Chapter 3 End. The End. Remember to subscribe and like this video. See you in the next video.